Hey, Pat.
Good evening. Welcome to the June 23rd, 2020 regular meeting of the Emerson governing body. This meeting is being held via teleconference due to the COVID-19 virus outbreak. This meeting is being videotaped and may be viewed from a link on the Borough website as well as on Verizon Fios Channel 36 and Cablevision Channel 77. Please turn off your cell phone ringtones, and if you are a member of the public joining us electronically, please mute your telephone until the public comment portion of the meeting begins. Council President Hoffman, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for Charles Edward Bednar and for Martin Casey, as well as for any other Emerson residents who have passed away. Thank you. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law and adequately noticed pursuant to NJSA 104-10. Notice of this meeting of June 23rd, 2020 was sent to the Record and Ridgewood News on December 19th, 2019. Notice to said newspapers posted at the entrances to Borough Hall and on the bulletin board in the municipal building and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. Ms. Diche, please call the roll call of the governing body.
Mayor DePaola.
Present.
Councilwoman Argenti is not present. Councilman Daly.
I don't hear you, Jane.
Councilman Daly. Okay. Councilwoman Denalo.
Here.
Councilman Gordon.
Here.
Council President Hoffman.
Present.
Councilwoman Mcguire.
Present.
Also present are Borough Administrator Robert Hermanson, Deputy Clerk Colleen Bedell joining us via teleconference, and I'm told Borough Attorney John McCann will be joining us shortly.
He's on his way.
On his way.
Rob, do we know if he might be stuck outside the door?
No, he's
Okay.
totally.
Excused absences of governing body member. There were no absences from the previous meeting. The next order of business is proclamations and citations. Proclamation honoring senior class of 2020. I'm going to read it again because we had so much fun doing it last week. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor. Whereas the Emerson Junior Senior High School class of 2020 is an exceptional group of graduates, and whereas many of these graduates were born during a national time of crisis and are graduating during an international time of crisis, and whereas due to the COVID-19 quarantine, these graduates have missed many milestones, including the senior prom and other senior activities. And whereas among these graduates, we celebrate the scholars, the thespians, the musicians, the singers, the athletes, the artists, the community volunteers, the scientists, the mathematicians, the writers, the introverts, the extroverts, the social butterflies, and all the diverse personalities of each and every graduate. And whereas these graduates have exemplified great resilience to overcome adversity, especially during the last 3 months while under quarantine due to the COVID-19 health crisis, and whereas these graduates continued their studies and maintained an extraordinarily positive attitude throughout this quarantine, and whereas the governing body of the Borough of Emerson wishes to congratulate you on successfully completing your 180 days of senior year in order to achieve your high school diplomas, and whereas June 18th, 2020 would have been your graduation day, where you should have been able to throw your caps up in the air, enjoy a celebration of all of your hard work, and whereas we, the governing body of the Borough of Emerson, are so proud of all of you and all of your achievements throughout the health crisis and throughout your entire high school careers. And whereas it gives us no greater joy than to celebrate you in classic Emerson family town style. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Emerson do hereby declare today, well, this was last week, Thursday, June 18th, 2020, as Spectacular Senior Day for the graduating class of 2020. We wish you everything wonderful, success, good health, happiness throughout your entire lives, and we hope you never forget, no matter where your path leads you, that you came from a tiny little town called Emerson, and that you are and always will be a Cabo. Be it further resolved, I, Danielle DePaola, Mayor of the Borough of Emerson, on behalf of the governing body and the citizens of the Borough of Emerson, have set my hand and caused the seal of the Borough of Emerson to be affixed this 18th day of June 2020. Congratulations to all the seniors that are graduating again. We had a great celebration with them last week. They had a drive up Main Street, and I think they were really happy considering it was supposed to have been their graduation day. And I know they're looking forward to their actual graduation, which I believe is on July 8th. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
You
true.
have a child, you don't remember.
I will be there,
You
but
will be there?
I couldn't tell you the date at this time.
When your suit is pressed and your wife tells you. All right, very good. So congratulations to all of those graduates. We were really happy to spend time with you, and we wish you all the luck in the world. Okay. The next item on the agenda is appointments and resignations. Resignation of Robert Quinones as a regular member for the 5-year term ending December 31st, 2020, effective June 18th, 2020, from the Rec Commission.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I just want to say it's regret. We worked very well together with Mr. Quinones, and unfortunately, his business is going very, very, strongly, and that he has to take on stronger role in there. But it is regret to me, and I think to the board also, that he is stepping down, because we worked very, very well together while he was the president. So I want to thank him for his services.
I truly believe it's with regret as well, but I do need a motion, and then I need a second.
With regret, I'll make the motion, and I can,
And with regret, I'll make the second.
And can I have all in favor with regret, please?
Aye.
Aye, okay, good. And I will also have to accept the resignation of Eilish Vigiani as the alternate 2 member for the 5-year term ending 12/31/22.
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is appointments. To the Rec Commission, I will be appointing Eilish Vigiani as a regular member for the unexpired 5-year term ending 12/31/21 to the Rec Commission. May I have a motion to move that?
So moved.
Second.
Actually, we don't need a vote. Oh, sorry, no vote.
Nope. Okay.
Actually, it's mayor's only appointment.
I just get carried away with this stuff. And we will be appointed, or I will be appointing an alternate at a future meeting. Mayor's appointment with council. Okay, we have an open seat on the library. I'm pretty sure I know who's going in there, but I did not get a chance to confirm with them before tonight, so we'll do that at our next meeting. Minutes for approval. Regular and closed session meeting minutes of June 9th. The Borough Clerk has not received any requests to amend the regular or closed session meeting minutes of June 9th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the regular and closed session meeting minutes of June 9th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is correspondence. Copies of the correspondence are available in the office of the municipal clerk. The next item is financial business. May I have a motion to approve resolutions 122-20 bill list?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Daly?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mcguire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Denalo? Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
And Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Detroit. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Discussion of ordinance 1615-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 47, Land Use Procedures at Section 26 entitled Fees and Section 26.1 entitled Escrow Deposits, and Chapter 236, Site Plan Review at Section 9 entitled Fees, and Section 9.1 entitled Escrow Deposits of the Code of the Borough of Emerson.
So basically, that is going to be on for our first reading. This is what we're seeing from the Land Use Board, has that and another, what we're going to read after this. These had not been looked at since the 70s. They asked to update it so that we were basically more in line with what's going on with the current environment. And these are the recommendations that's made by the Land Use Board, and so that's what they're asked us to put this on, which we will be then doing first reading, and if anybody has any questions, they can come in at the public at the second reading for this.
We have two introductions tonight, right?
That's correct. And and the same thing as unfinished business on the next one is the second ordinance, about sidewalks.
So, Mayor, could I just ask a question on this first one?
Sure.
I'm just worried, Rob, did the fees go up? Did you say the fees?
There was
went up?
some adjustments on there and just some bigger for the escrows that they're asking for it to hold, on that. But, basically they're in line with what normally is around, and the other surrounding areas right now, surrounding towns.
Okay. I mean, a lot of it looked like it was just being a little bit more explicit as far as escrow, and if the escrow runs out and...
Exactly.
Right.
Just a couple of things, like I said, there's nothing crazy in it.
Right.
But they did ask us to go through to update it so that would be up to,
Yeah.
current
These are
times.
just increases in order to keep up with fixed rising costs since 1970, I think
Yeah.
it was.
That's the thing with some of the escrow stuff, that's what they're saying, that they would see the adjustments. That's what you see in the rate, amount, but nothing earth-shattering.
Okay, any other discussion on those items? Councilwoman? Good. Councilman, no?
No, I'm good.
Councilwoman? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to the next item. Discussion of ordinance 1616-20, amending section 248 of the Code of the Borough of Emerson, section 38 entitled Curbs and Sidewalks, required for new construction, ordinance 1616-20.
Now, I think you can answer this also, Mayor, as well as I can. You've been, as a part of the board, this has been something that they've wanted to adjust and look at for sidewalks, because of some of the situations that we've had now in the last couple of years of who puts in sidewalks, where they don't. They believe that they have a better understanding of where sidewalks should be and how they should be put in. And they would like to have more control of that on that board, which is what they're asking for through this ordinance that we're going to be looking to put in the first reading later on tonight.
Okay. Any comments on that?
I do. So it seems to me that there's potential contradiction here, and I'll just read it to you. And I think this is new, even though it doesn't say it's new. Under B, what is this, 248-37B, it says in special cases on unimproved roads or streets or other streets where sidewalks do not presently exist, the mayor and council may, upon recommendation of the land use board, grant an exception to the sidewalk requirement of this section. And I think that upon recommendation of the land use board was the change, because I think previously there was an appeal that didn't have to be recommended by the land use board, that went to, the original wording was that it could go to the mayor and council. And I do remember being at a couple land use board meetings when the land use board attorney basically was saying, well, the expertise is really with the land use board, so why would the mayor and council necessarily have an overrule on that? So I understand that. However, if you go down to 248-38A, which appears to be, it says insert new section, it seems to give the power back to the mayor and council. So it says sidewalks and or curbs shall be required to be installed and constructed when the council of the borough shall, by resolution, determine that the health, safety, and welfare of the general public so requires and causes notice to that effect in writing to be served upon owner, etc. So it appears that, so let's say there's a situation where the mayor and council thinks
Councilman, where is that section?
248-38A,
648?
248.
248.
It says insert new section, so I'm assuming this is a new section?
248-38.
Yeah.
So what do you propose that we change it to? Because
Well, it seems like you can it seems like it nullifies the one that I previously read. Because let's say mayor and council wants to see a sidewalk, okay? Land use board says, no, we're not going to give a recommendation to that effect. And the council says, oh, there's something in here that says that we have that authority. Do you see how that says shall by resolution? It gives us that authority where we determine at the health, safety, and welfare. And health, safety, and welfare is a pretty general determination.
So why don't
So
we
do they
just
really
write
want,
that line
so they
then?
do they really want that? Is the question.
Well, we have, this is a first reading, right?
Right, but
We-
before we introduce this, I think if he has a problem with that line, we should strike the line and then adopt it, and then if another line needs to be put in, and it's not material, we can still go through with the second reading. If he thinks that it's contradicting, then we should get rid of the line that's contradicting and move forward with this.
Who's he?
You.
Oh.
You're the one that just thought.
But do you understand what I'm saying? In effect, it's potentially overruling their previous one that says upon recommendation of the land use board. Basically, it's telling us here, if we think the health, safety, and welfare of the general public requires it, we can require that the curb or sidewalk be put in.
Then I think.
I'm not sure they realize.
The only thing, the best thing I can tell you is that I'd have to ask Mr. Martin of what he's thinking on this, all right? Because what they may be saying still is that they still believe that if there is something to be appealed or whatever, they still want somewhere to go with it, which is the reason why I think he's putting that back in there. Just basically what they're saying is they want to have control and think of it, but if something does come up where we may disagree with them, you still ultimately have the authority to do so. And I think that's kind of what they're saying in this. And I think that's what he's granting. Basically what they're saying is let them make 99.9% of all the decisions. But if something does happen where it needs to come here, that they still need to have an avenue of where else to go. And I think that's what that is.
Okay, but it does, don't you see where the...
I can understand that, but I think the reason why he wrote it the way that he did, that's my belief, but unless I ask Mr. Martin himself, so the only thing I can tell you is that I would leave it as is, the way it is now, and if there is something that needs to be changed, I do not believe that would be a material major change, and that if we have to change it, we can tweak it then before the second reading, before we actually adopt it to the public, and then see what happens on that side. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. I just wonder whether they realize what we could potentially do.
I understand, yeah. But I think that's why he did it, because I think they still want somewhere where if someone has a question, that they still want to have an avenue to come to speak.
Okay.
Because right now, otherwise it's to the land use board. Land use board makes that decision, that's it. There really is no recourse then at that point. So I think
The purpose of this ordinance is to give the power to the land use board.
Yeah, exactly. But I think also.
But that doesn't do that.
I think because in that section, it says if there is something going on, they could come here, which is what I do think is what they still potentially want, as in case something happens.
Well, that's B, but we have kind of, by this, we have kind of an autonomous authority if we believe that the health, safety, and welfare of the general public requires it, that we could require that the curbs, sidewalks, and/or curbs shall be required to be installed. That's clearly what it says here.
And I don't disagree with you what it
I
says.
feel like I'm having a deja vu.
We are.
So if,
We've gone down this alley before.
I'm a little confused then why this wasn't addressed prior to the meeting when we wanted to adopt it. But if you think that we should strike it, then I think we should strike it.
Well, I didn't address it. I mean, Mayor, you know that I appeared at a couple land use board meetings.
Okay,
And I have a-
one second, Council President. Excuse me, there are several people on the go-to meeting, and you're not muted, so we're getting a lot of interference. Could you, everybody please mute until time that we open up to the public, please? Sorry, Council President.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to past history on this. I mean, I did appear at a couple land use board meetings to go over this. This kind of began with that situation on the corner of Palisade and whatever that other street is. We also had requested, and I know he had scheduling issues, but we requested that the land use board attorney actually appear. This is when we were, had our regular meetings, to appear before us to answer questions, and that never happened too. So I think that's why we're in the situation that we're in now.
Okay, so,
I agree it's a little frustrating. I mean, I'm actually surprised they inserted 24838A where it gives us that kind of autonomous authority, because it seems to be against what the original intentions were.
I think it might just be a typo, that's why I'm
It's a
saying
typo?
maybe we should just
It's a whole
strike it because
Mayor,
not
it's a whole
what we
section,
intended.
it's like 7 lines. I mean, they put it, it should not have been put in there, is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
It's possible.
Because if you remove that section, then it reads exactly the way it should, correct?
Correct.
Is John on his way?
John is on his way. John should be here within 5 minutes.
So why don't we go over this very briefly when Mr. McCann gets here and ask him if it would be
I
appropriate
also,
to strike it?
I'm also reaching out to Mr. Martin
Okay.
to see if we
I
can
think
reach out
that
to him.
if we,
Yeah, why don't we reach out to him?
sorry?
Why don't we reach out to Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I think that if, since it contradicts and it's just in there, if we just strike it and then we, introduce it, we're okay, because the intention is still there to give the power to the land use board.
Well, like I said, if we can get an answer from him between the reports where you're doing some of the stuff, what's here, if he gets back to me, that would be
All
great.
right, so let's just
go
put a
from
little pin in this
That
for
would
right
probably be
now.
the short version, too.
Sorry?
That would probably be the short version.
Yes. So, we'll put a pin in this for right now and move on to the next item, which is a driver's license policy reminder. Mr. Hermanson?
Okay, so, I want to thank Jane, and Colleen for working together with us, and this is never an easy thing, all right, for anybody, you know, trying to get our boards, our employees and volunteers to give us their driver's license, all right, because in case anything happens, we, you know, through JIF, they've asked us to make sure that we give what we're supposed to give, to check their licenses and have it, you know, what we need. Bottom line is, we went through the boards and we noticed that there were a few that were missing from last year still that we were going through. So we would like to have a policy put in place that sets it and establishes those from last year along with this year, because we're going to start all over again now. We do not generally start this process on January 1st. We wait, it's usually towards right now June or July. So the goal is that anyone who has not given us their driver's license, we would like to reach out to those, you know, rec commissions or the, whatever the commission is at that point, whether it's fire, evac, and you name it, and have those heads of those commissions and those departments to have their individuals submit the driver's license. If they do not submit from last year, then what ends up happening is that they're basically giving up the right to be part of what Emerson is asking. It's not us not asking them, they are giving it up because this is what is part of the criteria in
So
order to be
basically, in
passed
a nutshell, the
commission.
JIF would like driver's licenses in order to make sure that the borough is covered in case of some kind of an accident.
That is correct.
We are asking all boards and commissions,
And workers.
all volunteers, all governing body members, and anyone who may drive a vehicle on behalf of the borough to submit the driver's license. So you want us to write a policy, which in effect says you need to do this, and if you don't, you relinquish your seat.
That is correct. And so what we're looking to do now is, as of July, you know, for the next meeting, we would like to have anyone who has not given theirs from last year to make sure that it is in, because if it is not in, then as of the 21st, sorry, Jan, I keep saying the 23rd, it's the 21st. By that point, we would then ask to remove those individuals
I
off
have
those
another
boards.
question.
And what we're looking to do, if we also use those same, submitting now, we would use them for next year also, because they would be put in at the same time. We can use it then for this year and next year, which is the policy that I was gonna ask Mr. McCann if that's possible. Otherwise, we'd have to do it twice. It doesn't make sense to do it twice. If we can do it now, we're do it the one time, make one from last year, showing that they submitted, and then that they submitted then the same thing for this year. And what we would like to have happen is, you know, the responsibility in the clerk's office is, you know, that kind of falls on them. It really shouldn't fall on the clerk's office. It should fall on each commission and each department and the department heads of where they are to make sure that their individuals have put in, because the clerk shouldn't have to chase. Clerk shouldn't have to chase the fire department who's there. The fire chief has a better chance of knowing and getting to their members, each member and each person, than the clerk's office does. So my recommendation will be that each department, so if you have the Board of Health, whoever the chair of the Board of Health, then would go through each person. And the same thing for each other board that we have, and each other commission that's out there. So that's the recommendation. We would like to see it put something in place in hard, steadfast, so this way the policy is in place, and so we can implement it as of the 23rd, or 21st, so that we can go in and get this done, to move forward with
I think
this.
the policy also has to have something in writing that says, if for some reason this person does not pass the background check that's going to be performed after we get the driver's licenses, what will happen and what the consequence would be in regards from the JIF.
I think we have that.
We have an ordinance in place, a different guidelines,
Yeah.
based on whatever.
Does that need to be added to the policy?
We could ask the attorney when he gets here, if that's what needs to
We can make
be.
a note and we'll
Yeah,
ask
but I think we already have that in here as part of the, background checks, and where we are, what it says is that if you don't pass and there's a problem, it's part of employment and part of anything else. So I'm not giving legal advice, that's why I'm not going to answer that question exactly. But I would say that since we already have that in there, I think that's already clarified of what we would need. I don't necessarily think we would need a change to that.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Martin is just trying to call me.
If you
So,
want to step
and
out.
let me finish this, we'll go to get down to anything else on here that I can answer on, because I have the next two, I think are, one of them is mine, the next one I gotta wait for John anyhow.
I think that if you call Mr. Martin back, we can take a very quick break.
Sure.
While we wait for Mr. Martin to.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
And Ken, why don't you come with me?
Okay.
So this way you can
All
explain
right, we're
things.
just going to take a half a second pause. So are you pausing the recording? Start taping again,
We are
DJ.
recording.
We are recording.
Can we just
Okay,
make
let the
one-
record reflect that Councilwoman Argenzia entered council chambers while we were on a break at 7:25 or so. Mr. McCann joined us shortly thereafter, and our land use board attorney, Mr. Chris Martin, is also on the telephone joining us. So you're welcome.
Will now be recorded.
So we are now going to go back to the question that we were discussing regarding the ordinance number, the discussion. What's the number?
1615-20.
Yeah, 1615.
1615-20.
Okay.
Why don't we
and,
just let Mr.
And we're going to let our land use board attorney explain, and if you want to chime in, please.
You can ask Ken to ask the question.
Mr. Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Hoffman last year raised a couple of issues with this particular ordinance, and the land use board reviewed it at the request of the governing body and voted on some suggested changes. And those were apparently ready in January, and for some reason they didn't make it up to the governing body. So when I heard of that this past week, I immediately forwarded up the chain, and I thank her for taking it and putting it on the agenda. We had spoken, Mr. McCann and I had spoken, I believe, in January. It was, or maybe even earlier about that, went back and forth. Well, just for a little clarification. And I think Mr. Hoffman can frame the two issues very well in terms of what the questions were. Ken, can you just say that again?
Well, I'm not sure about the two, but the original situation was the question of whether there should be, I think you can explain this better, but whether there should be an appeal to the council in regard to sidewalks and curbs, and you had one situation there. And I think your feeling was that it's really the land use board that has the expertise as far as deciding whether a sidewalk or curb should be established. I think you can explain it better, though, per the specific situation.
Yeah, Ken, that was one of the concerns. The issue with the ordinance, whenever it was drafted, was if there was a question on a waiver of the requirement for sidewalks and curbing, that would then have to go from the open application up to the governing body, noticed and reviewed, and then that gets to go back to the land use board for a final determination on application. Very unorthodox and very disjointed in terms of how an application should go forward. And where the land use board is vested with the duties to enforce the ordinances of the town in terms of land use related matters, the board could take the issue as to whether a waiver is appropriate on an application right before it, as opposed to sending it up to the governing body for that purpose alone. So that was the one issue. I think the other issue was there was a consideration of a spot zoning, if you will, as to, well, wait a minute, why could there be a certain area that needs to be mandated with sidewalks, not within the discretion of the land use board, whereas some other area a few blocks away doesn't have that? And there are two issues that came up with that. Number one, you don't want a spot assessment or a spot zoning issue, which is a constitutional violation against one individual as opposed to another individual, and allegedly could be treated inequitably without equal treatment. You don't want that. Number two, you want the ability, and I don't foresee this in Emerson, but if there's a situation where there's something that becomes a heavily trafficked area by children, for whatever reason, things change over a short period of time, and there's some accidents and issues that there really should be sidewalks and curbing that are mandated, that allows the governing body to take a look at that. And on notice, I believe it says, I don't have it right in front of me, I apologize, I wasn't expecting the call, but allows on notice, like a regular ordinance, for that type of issue to be mandated and require sidewalks and curbing that wouldn't be within the waiver province of the land use board. So the two issues are, number one, why, if you have the ability for a normal development or normal construction, that it would have to stop and go up to the governing body, why can't that be taken at the land use board level? Ken raised that as an excellent point. We address that. And the other one is for two reasons. Number one, safety of the community. And number two, to show that the town is not inequitably doing a spot zone for required sidewalks and curbing when there's a safety issue that may arise.
Chris, it does say at the end of that, it says not less than 30 days from the date of said notice. So is that what you're referring to?
He's saying that it says not less, repeat that?
It says that said resolution has to be in the form of resolution not less than 30 days from the date of service of said notice.
Not less than 30 days from the said notice.
Yeah, that's the notice provision I was supposed. So there will be appropriate commentary. Let's say you need commentary for ordinances, as John knows. So that would allow that to happen. It's just a condition that allows the governing body to remain in control of its own ordinances, which is appropriate.
Okay.
The land use
So the
board
bottom line is, Chris, that the ordinance is
interprets the
written
ordinances.
correctly. Continue.
And that was it?
He wasn't done.
I thought he was done.
Can we just check if Colleen can hear?
Colleen, can you hear us?
Everybody can hear the whole conversation.
Colleen?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Jane wanted to do a quick sound check. Okay, so,
Okay.
thank you. So, Mr.
Colleen
Martin,
sounds like she landed on the moon.
Colleen is on the telephone.
Okay.
I have good news to report when we get to reports, so, about our meetings. But anyway, so do you have anything to add, Mr. McCann? Is everything clear? Do we need any other explanation from Mr. Martin?
No, that's sufficient.
Okay.
We thank Chris very much for that.
Thank you very much for joining us unexpectedly, Mr. Martin. We really want to get this through, so we felt it necessary to give you a quick ring in order to clarify it. But thank you very much, and we will move on with the meeting.
Good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is, let's see where we are, I'm all over the place at this point. New business, or actually, no, you wanted to go back with Mr. McCann here to, the policy on the driver's licenses.
So what we're looking, John, is that there's, we've had some individuals that had not given in their driver's license from last year still. So there's a couple things that we're looking to,
In employees,
no, I believe all the employees did what they were supposed to. This would be more on commissions and, some, volunteers on, some of the things. What we're thinking about is going in and changing that policy going forward, and that's having a set date and then having a time, like like a little bit of a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, 4 weeks after that, in case someone had something happen that didn't get a chance to get it in. But then at that point, once that occurs, and that's a drop dead date, that if that is not in, that at that point they would relinquish whatever, wherever the seat they were or what position they were in, due to the fact that they're not meeting the GIF's requirements to meet Emerson's requirements for us to protect Emerson. So we want to put that in.
you want like a grace period, you mean?
Grace period, that's the words I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure. Just currently, just refresh my memory, Rob, because I don't remember, what is our current state of the ordinance now that we did?
Currently, we haven't, it was adopted, we have one that's in place,
Sorry, help write it.
right? But it does not state about anybody on a given, to give up the position. It just tells us that we ask for the driver's license.
Mhm.
So we need to have something that we think that needs a little
We
more
need to be
teeth.
able to compel people to give their driver's license because the GIF is requiring it.
Okay. Well, you can compel because it's a requirement. If they don't comply with the requirement, the governing body can take action.
That's what we're asked, make sure.
Yeah,
We want
yeah.
to change that so that for the
Don't
next.
have to, not necessary.
Then the second thing is, what we would like to do is, since the members who have not given, we would like to offer them their grace period until the next meeting, until July 21st, which would then allow them to give it towards from last year, which they were supposed to, and then would also have it for this year, because we're going to have to do it again, and instead of doing it twice, have it used for this year, for strictly that time, just, use it both times. We want to make sure that's
I have
possible.
to double check the ordinance, what it says, but you can do a grace period for the current situation. As it means going forward, I don't know what the time frames we set in there, if we even set any specific, was it an annual thing? I don't recall off the top of my head.
It is
So-
annual.
It is. All right, so it's an annual requirement, and so they would have to comply annually. Now, it's up to the borough if you want to allow them administratively. Actually, it's administrative action. So if you want to, give them a grace period, go ahead, as long as you inform, as the administrator, as long as you inform the governing body and they're okay with it. But it's essentially, it's a ministerial thing.
And what we also want to do is, the last thing is, right now, this kind of falls upon the clerk's office, and the clerk's office now is having to make the calls and check and get back, and we do not believe that that's the efficient way of doing this. We think a better way of doing is have every department head, who's reporting to that department, make sure that the department head checks to make sure all their employees have given it, and also on all the commissions, whoever is the chair of the commission would go through it, the fire department chief, the EVAC, head of EVAC, everyone on those would go through, and it would go through them, as opposed to have us chase on this, because this way they have better information, better contacts, better way of getting them than what's going on a given day for this. So we would like to have it so that we would put that in also, that they would head it.
You don't need an ordinance to do that either. Again, how you administratively proceed with it, in the absence of specific language, it's an administrative act. So you, as the borough administrator, or any borough administrator, can implement. What you can't do is take away things and rights that they have legally. You don't want to say to someone, this applies to you, but it doesn't apply to you.
Right.
That kind of goes what Chris was talking about under the zoning ordinance of equal protection before the law. You have to treat everyone with spot zoning. It's the same principle. So you can't just be mindful that if you have people coming up and saying, well, I don't really need to do it. I mean, actually, they do, because if you don't, you're putting a requirement for some and then not a requirement for others, then you're going to have, and that becomes a bigger issue constitutionally as it relates to employment or voluntary issues.
Colleen is asking that everyone speak louder so that it can be picked up.
Could she hear me?
Colleen we need people to talk louder, she requested.
No.
And speak directly into your microphone.
You take action. The consequences over.
Just move your microphone a little closer, John, then.
Give them 30 days.
Yeah.
You do whatever, if they don't comply administratively, if the administrator says you got 5 days, 10 days, again, you just gotta be fair in your assessment of how you administer. If they don't comply, you come back before the.
Move your microphone.
I'm sorry. That's a good question. Councilman, you want to ask the question again?
The question I had was, to hold them accountable if they don't turn it in, what's the consequence?
Right, so the consequence is, the borough can take administrative action, against someone who's not complying. This is a JIF requirement, that the borough needs to comply with. It's not a stretch to say it can jeopardize the borough's, coverage. And so the borough would take appropriate action, whether that is a suspension until the person complies, or a termination. You're allowed to, you don't need to put that in the ordinance, because the ordinance says you have to comply. The remedy for non-complying and what happens to that person is totally up to the governing body.
And so,
No, it's up, well,
It was an administrative.
it's administrative act to send out, a 10-day notice saying, hey, we need this within 10 days. It's an administrative act to say it's 20 days, okay? And I said just now is you have to be fair in how you do that, and that's what I was talking to Mr. Hermanson. So, but in terms of the actual consequence, Mr. Hermanson would report back, or any administrator would report back to the council, and the council would decide what you'd want to do with that person who's potentially jeopardizing your coverage with the joint insurance fund.
so would it be up to so in the case of commissions and boards, it would be up to the chair to check that grace period and make sure that that person had, you're giving a little responsibility to that chair to make sure they're submitting the license in time, so you have grace
No,
period.
the secretary would be collecting it, and then if she
The
would
secretary
report
of
to
each
the
board and commission?
administrator who did or didn't, give them in. And then if they didn't give it in, Mr. Hermanson would ask them to ask again, and then Mr. Hermanson would actually, jump in at that point,
We would have to.
if they weren't complying.
That's the thing. What we could do is on a weekly basis then go through, make sure who has what we've updated with the secretary, go through then who hasn't had it, and we can start to go through and facilitate it better. Where we have it right now, it's really unfair to have the clerk's office trying to go through and get every volunteer and every other person in here and trying to get the calls and do this. It's just not efficient. It just doesn't make
Right,
sense
so-
to the departments.
So to answer your question, that's up to you.
Right.
If you want to say, I want the department heads to do this, that's up to you, completely.
That, I wanted to make sure it was on the record, that's all. This way,
This is
everyone
very
knows what we're
easy.
going
We
to
just
do.
have to put out the notice that we require the driver's
That's it.
licenses, the secretaries, or the lack thereof for the fire department and for evac. We'll have a list of their members. They'll check off if they've given it. After 5 days or a week of asking for it, if they haven't given it, they'll give you the list of who they have, who they don't. And then you will call up the people, correct? And say, we need your driver's license. And then at that point, they have however many days that we prescribe to give in their driver's license. And if they don't, then the governing body can take action, in either to suspend them, remove them from the board or commission.
Well, actually,
Or any action.
the amount of time prescribed is really up to Mr. Hermanson. So you could chime in as well, but you don't need any changes to the ordinance for Mr. Hermanson to discern. As long as Mr. Hermanson doesn't say, you got till noon tomorrow.
Right.
Okay, it has to be a reasonable amount of time, and the reason for not complying has to be compelling. I can't imagine what that possibly could be off the top of my head.
Right.
But, and then you assess it. And then if you have someone who's not in compliance, you ask them, Rob, what's the reason?
Right.
In writing, explain why it's going to apply to everyone else, or not you or these 2 or 3, whatever, how many people are not complying.
Right. And it'll either be me or calling my my assistant who would be reaching out to let people know what's going on.
Right, okay.
That's
Can
fine.
we move on from this now? Is everybody on the
Yep.
same page?
Yes, I'm just also asking that everyone speak loud and clearly. Someone is saying that he can't hear Rob speaking, so please speak directly into your microphone.
And I'm going to ask
Loudly.
whoever is on the let go. on the go-to meeting, please mute your phone. I'm getting a lot of kickback from you, and I think that is what's disturbing the other people. You hear it also?
It's interfering with the
Yeah, there's
thinking.
interference on the line. Please mute your phones,
And
please.
Mayor, if there's a way to make your volume louder on your phone,
Jim, you can keep your phone muted unless you want to say something, then you can unmute. We'll still be able to hear you.
Mayor, is your volume loud on your phone?
Wait, 1 sec. Sorry, Ms. Diche?
I apologize. Is your volume on your phone loud to pick up everything?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
My volume's up, and I moved my phone and put it closer to the microphone and on top of the dais. I had it below, so it should be better now. Councilman Bailey, would you like to say something?
Yes, I just think maybe with some of the work done for the license and the first letter that's sent to everybody, there should be an option that, I don't want to participate in the program. I hereby resign my member. Tracking down somebody 3-4 times, waste of time. So give them their first shot. Maybe they're never going to say yes. So tell them right now, I'm resigning from my position because I don't want to participate with this insurance request.
Do you like that idea?
Yeah. I like
All right, great suggestion. John thinks it's legal, so
It's legal. It's up to Mr. Hermanson whether he wants to do
we'll
it.
figure out with Mr. Hermanson when he puts it into place how it's going to work out. And anyone can talk to you offline about this with any suggestions while you administer that.
That works.
Yes, Councilman Bailey?
No, that works. Just wanted to bring up that one point.
All right, very good. That's actually a very good point. Thank you. Why chase the horse if he doesn't want to be in the barn?
When
There you
will
go.
the email be sent out?
I'll work on it this week.
Yeah, so we already have worked on most of this. We just wanted to finalize it. This really could be done in the next day or two, if with everything the way we want to
Okay,
do
great.
this.
So have we wrapped up everything, caught everybody up? Everybody's here now, one big happy family. Mr. McCann's here, Councilwoman's here, right? Everything's caught up?
I believe so.
Terrific. We are now going to move on in the agenda to the next item, which is new business. Discussion of resolution opposing Governor Murphy's action on homestead rebate and property tax freeze. Mr. Hermanson.
So, what I've been receiving from phone calls from our seniors who are very disappointed right now. They are very disappointed that the property tax relief is going to be taken away this year by the governor, also with the homestead rebate. So, one of the conversations that I had with with some of the seniors that we had, including one who is a very vociferous advocate for the seniors, who has continued to call on this, was to try to do something with a resolution, letting the state of New Jersey know, the Assembly and the Senate and the governor, that we are against the rescinding of this year for the homestead rebate and the property tax freeze. It is, I believe that this is a good idea. I think this is the right thing. I think we should be protecting our seniors, especially in this time. We've talked about a lot of things that are going on with COVID and a lot of things that are happening. We have talked about for workers who are out of work and what we're doing for unemployment and so forth and so on through this country. It really does surprise me that what happened here is now that the people who are extremely vulnerable and on fixed incomes, that we're taking a look, and the first people we're going to turn and hurt is our seniors. So to me, I agree with this, with putting a resolution forward. And so I'm asking if the governing body would like to, then, we would put something together and write it for the next meeting.
Robin, just briefly, the governor's rationale for doing this is to get more revenue?
Yeah, that he's basically looking to figure out ways to create keep the money and save the money towards a budget on somewhere else. I don't think we should be using seniors on the backs of seniors in order to do that, but that's just my opinion that I'm getting from other seniors. All right, the seniors that are saying it, which is the reason why I brought this along with the mayor. I had spoke to the mayor about this. She requested that I put this on for new business to discuss this because she believed it was the right thing and wanted the governing body to see what the governing body felt. So I'm going to leave this to the governing body. If they tell me yes to do this, then we will put this on and work with this, and then ask the mayor to put it on for the next
I
agenda.
don't think you need to reinvent the wheel on this resolution, because I believe there's one being circulated right now. I know that the Pascack Valley Mayors Association has been a topic that we've been planning on discussing.
Can't be, into the mic, better.
They can hear me because the phone's right
I
here.
know, but you can barely, I'm just telling you.
So, thank you for the reminder.
Mhm.
So it's something that the Pascack Valley Mayors Association has talked about, so I doubt we're the first ones that are going to be writing a resolution. So we can call around and see if somebody has already adopted one
It's
or
fine.
passed one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mayor, is there, I'm assuming there's consensus on that from the council. Is that true? It is?
Sorry?
I'm assuming that there's consensus from the council to
Is that
move
a
forward.
question?
Well, I'm asking everyone. Because I didn't hear from anyone else, that's why.
Would you like to take a straw poll or something like that to?
Sure. Do we have a consensus in order to move forward with a resolution to send to Governor Murphy regarding the homestead rebate?
And the property tax rate?
What?
Make a motion. Do whatever you said.
Just a straw
I
poll.
definitely think we should. Oh, yes.
Are you in favor? Let's-
Yes, I'm in favor. Make a motion.
Councilwoman Denali, are you in favor of doing this resolution? Yes? Council President?
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilwoman Mcguire?
Yes.
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 Councilman Daly? Councilman Daly?
He's trying to unmute now.
You?
Yes.
Are you in favor of moving forward with this resolution? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a consensus to please move forward with that. All right, the next item on the agenda is discussion of police appropriate authority. Mr.
So,
Hermanson?
that I'm going to leave to the attorney. Basically, there's been discussion of what the appropriate authority is, how it works, what's happening with it, and I think that the best person to answer that question is the attorney.
Thank you, Rob. All right, what's the
You
question?
have to really speak up, though. For
Okay,
some
well-
reason, you're like in...
Well, what, I suppose, so what is the question? I've litigated this statute for 20 years. What's the question?
I think there were some, the council members who have come to me and asked me, basically, they want to make sure that they understand what the appropriate authority is, how it works, and who makes up the appropriate authority, who consists the appropriate authority, and what the appropriate authority has the right to do or not be able to do.
Okay. All right. Whoever put this out, thank you. You just saved me looking it up. So, under New Jersey statutes, 48:14-118, police force creation, establishment, regulation, members, chief police powers and duties. So, this comes out of law regarding normal pushes and pulls in county and local governments. It's also a county government issue, as you may be aware and remember. This ordinance is written in a way to provide for the effective delivery of police services in the community with minimal, is least amount of friction and interference from elected officials as possible with the day-to-day operations of the police department. So the police department is consisted in this town of a chief of police. We do not have a police director. And the chief of police, under this statute, is responsible for the day-to-day operations and the enforcement of the rules and regulations of the department. And it's also known as the Chief Police Responsibility Act. It's not just about the appropriate authority. So, and that comes, and it delineates very clearly. On the other hand, you have the governing body position where, well, the governing body decides policy. Does not interfere with the day-to-day operations of the police department. When I say day-to-day operations of the police department, I'm talking about, as I said, enforcement of rules and regulations, where to put speed enforcement zones, DUIs, all that normal stuff that goes along with the command function of a police department. Policy is regarding things such as scheduling. Are we going to do a equipment schedule or not? these are things that are policy decisions. And that's been decided in the case law, and it's those lines of demarcation are pretty easy and pretty clear. So, and the policy is set not by the entire governing body. The governing body creates what's called the appropriate authority to assume the policy perspectives that the governing body wishes to have. Most of the time, a lot of times it's made up sometimes of governing body members, a lot of times it's not. In Emerson's case, it's not. It's from what I can remember in the statute, in Emerson, not the statute, the ordinance, the borough, you are the appropriate authority under the Emerson law. And that's not unusual. Many towns have that. And that generally works out well depending upon the relationship between the chief and the administrator. So, and then separate and apart from that, that's pretty much what the ordinance is.
John, I just had a question in regard to appropriate authority in Emerson. You were saying who was the appropriate authority?
Bob.
No,
the borough.
The ordinance says actually that it's Bob, the...
Not Bob, it says I believe it says the administrator. That's, I'm going back 2 years ago. What's that?
No, more than that. It's the administrator, it's the police commissioner, and the deputy police commissioner.
That's correct. You're right. Thank you for reminding that. And so, right, so if you have a police commissioner, and if you have a deputy police commissioner, that makes up the appropriate authority here in Emerson.
Right now, I don't think we have that in the borough of Emerson, which is one of the things that we discussed.
You don't have a police commissioner, and you don't have a,
That has to be, I believe we have to do that by...
Well, that's the mayor's appointment to the committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
I think that's something that E-code is supposed to be cleaning up, because we don't have a commission form of government, and that was one of the issues, I think, with our ordinance, where was a police committee, there's liaisons to the police department, and then our ordinance speaks to a commissioner. We don't have a commission form of government, so there are no commissioners.
Well, is there a police committee?
yes.
Phil and I were appointed.
Well, the police committee is not a deputy, unless it says the police committee is made up of a police commissioner and I think you said a deputy commissioner?
Yeah, it says police commissioner and deputy police commissioner.
So you need those positions in order to have that
We have an
appointment.
ordinance with positions that don't exist.
Right, so it needs to
Why?
be cleaned up.
Well, that's a good question. That's one of the things that you hired.
When was the last time there was a police commissioner and deputy police commissioner in Emerson?
From what I remember in the 80s.
No, actually,
81.
no. I remember, well, it was the Michael Sardino litigation that I was involved with. There was a guy named Brian Todd. His title was police commissioner.
He was appointed police commissioner.
Yes.
That's correct. And then after that,
Just a minute, Chief, what governing body's talking?
there was an appropriate authority, and I think it moved on to Councilman Lafredo, and Councilman Heyer were members of the appropriate authority, along with the administrator at that time. So I don't know if they were officially appointed as commissioner and deputy commissioner.
Well, I could tell you that...
They were the appropriate authority, though. They made up the rules and regulations. I remember that.
Well, I know, I'm just going by my memory,
Yeah.
and this was 2007, I think.
I was
Or
on the
six.
council.
Yeah, so you probably know better than me. When I represented Mr. Sardino in that litigation, one of the things I would have done is I would have looked at, just by memory, I would have looked at whether or not there was a resolution appointing a police commissioner and a police, that's what I would have looked for. I don't know if I ever found one. I must have, because I'm sitting here with the memory that he was the commissioner. So there must have been a resolution. I'm going back to 2007. I don't know what happened after that.
And I actually believe the mayor would...
Recently, I was told that I was part of the appropriate authority.
Who told you
To
that?
have a meeting, the administrator. To have a meeting as a member of the appropriate authority, as well as Councilman Gordon.
You going to say something first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So basically what occurred, okay, and how we got to where we did was that we were told that part of the police committee, right?
Mhm.
That was the assumption at that time that they were part of the authority. When we went through and started to look at this, and I reached out, and I spoke to the mayor, and then said, we're going to have an appropriate authority meeting. We were discussing to do this because I would...
Let me stop you, Rob. So honestly, I mean, you can't, it's, a police committee is not the appropriate authority.
Well, that's where I was going.
Two different things.
So that's where exactly where I was going.
Okay.
And what happened was the mayor then said to me, right now, we don't have commissioners. She explained why, because of this ordinance problem, that we were showing that there's commissioners, but we don't. And so when I actually met with Jill and Brian at the meeting, I explained to them and sat down right away and said, I just want you to understand, technically right now, from what we're being told, and what I found out because of our ordinances and the way it's set up, they're not part of the appropriate authority, because we have to, if we're going to do this based off where we are, we would have to appoint a deputy and a police commissioner.
Correct.
So because that was the clarification that I received, which is then I did then report back.
So,
I have another
up until this administration, who has been taking on the role of appropriate authority, whether there was a police commissioner
doing
or
it
a
wrong.
deputy? So there have been
So we're
people
gonna correct
acting
it.
in the role.
No, back last year, this issue came up with Mr. Sciola. I informed Mr. Sciola, I remember that he was the appropriate authority. I remember this, because this is and I asked him, was there an appointment of a police, and he said no. I said, well, then you're in. I had this discussion in, I think it was January, February of the first year that I started serving.
So right now, the only member of the appropriate authority is the administrator.
Right now, that's correct. But you also, my next question is going to be, Ken, do you know if there is an ordinance that allows for a police commissioner and deputy commissioner?
Is there an ordinance?
Yeah, you need an ordinance. You just
I
you can't make it up out of whole cloth.
John, I don't believe so.
Okay. I mean, this is why you have the ordinance.
Right, and well, I have a question, for the mayor's comment about the fact that, can you have a police commissioner and a deputy police commissioner if you don't have a commissioned form of ordinance, form of government? I think that's the question the mayor was kind of getting to, right? Mayor,
Well, what I was saying is, if our ordinance says this is the only ordinance that speaks to the appropriate authority. The appropriate authority required by NJSA 40A14-118 shall consist of the police commissioner, deputy police commissioner, and the borough administrator. That's it.
Okay, so my next
So
question...
my question was,
Sorry.
if we're not a commissioned form of government, do we then have to define in an ordinance that we're going to create the positions of police commissioner and deputy police commissioners?
That
The
is-
Because we
statute,
can't have a commissioner if we don't have
the statute gives you wide latitude. That just happens to be the way we do it with police commissioner. If it says appropriate authority means, I'll read the whole thing. Appropriate authority means the mayor, manager, or such other appropriate executive or administrative officer, such as a full-time director of public safety, which we don't have, or the governing body, or any designated committee or member thereof, or any municipal board or commission established by ordinance for such purposes.
No, the key words are this, established by ordinance.
Right, so you would have to change the ordinance if you
Right.
wanted to make it a committee member.
Yeah, so the question, I think, Ken, what you were asking is, does a commission form of government matter? No, what matters is what you define.
Okay.
Okay, so what you would have to, in order to address this, you would need an ordinance to create the positions of deputy commissioner and borough, and commissioner. Now, let me caution you, those are not easy to write, because they are civilians, and you're dealing with potential police powers. And I'll give you a specific personal example.
I have a quick question before you explain that, because maybe there's no need to make commissioners. Maybe we will write an ordinance that says that the appropriate authority is made up of the police committee and the administrator, and forgo all this talk of commissioners.
Well, you could do that too. In fact, well,
I
that's
think
where
that's the easiest way to go.
But that's where I was going.
But is that the right way to go?
Well, it depends.
Easy doesn't mean right.
Well, commissioner is,
It's not an easy ordinance to write. Let me give you an example. When I was,
we don't have a commission. I just think it would be very confusing to have people called commissioners when we don't have a commissioned form of government. I think
one's got nothing to do with it. But one's got nothing to do with the other. When I was a councilman in Cresskill, for 9 years I served as the police commissioner. And it was a defined ordinance. What specific powers of the police commissioner. The deputy commissioner did not share those powers unless I vacated. So there was two tiers of authority. Under that ordinance, the police commissioner had the power of arrest, and it was consistent with the New Jersey statutes. Cresco was the only town that I saw that had that actually put in their ordinance. And again, the question is, does the state allow you to do that? The Police Commission Training Act and so forth. At the time, you're talking about 2000, the answer was yes. Then that changed. They changed the definition of people who qualify as a police officer. It then included sheriff's department. Okay, anyone that was PTC, what they call PTC certified. So then that wiped out that ordinance. The commission of the idea of a police commissioner, I mean, they actually gave me a badge. Okay, and in fact, they did the same thing for the council in Tenafly. And the councilman got arrested for showing his badge in Newark for official misconduct, saying, he wanted a good parking space by the drug dealers, and he said, I'm here, and he showed a police commissioner badge from Tenafly, and the police officer from Newark proceeded to arrest him. And then he got charged, the drug charge and the trafficking was dropped, but he got actual jail time, if I remember correctly, for official misconduct, for trying to use his badge to
Impersonating.
it wasn't impersonating, it was using your official position to benefit himself.
Was that up until this point, the council members who've been on the police committee have been errantly, I guess, acting in the role as the appropriate authority?
Well, it depends.
When did you act as the appropriate authority?
I said in the past.
Oh, well, I don't know.
That's what I said. So
I don't know what happened with the ordinances, and the ordinance company will, hopefully you can ask them, Jane, if there were, because back in 2007, I know Brian Todd was represented, and I wouldn't have gone that way in a court filing unless I had a resolution showing that there was a commissioner. There must have been a change in the ordinances, and this fell through. Do you see what I'm saying?
So we need to clarify this, and then we'll move forward at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Mayor, if I can speak.
Sure.
Councilman Daly?
I'm also a bit confused with the fire department because sometimes I'm referred to as a fire commissioner and other times as liaison to the council before the fire department, from the council to the fire department. So it's confusing because I've heard both terms used. I just thought I would bring more of a liaison. And I don't know which is the host of the truck, so I'm not much of a firefighter and fire commissioner, but maybe that term goes back in town. And some of the older fellows call me commissioner. But there's another one if you're doing the homework on sleep.
That's a great point, Councilman. It's a great point.
So, and that brings me to, Jane, where are we with the review of our ordinances with the company that we engaged with in order to clean all of them up?
Yes.
This is probably something that they're going to send to you as a red flag.
I had requested a 3-month extension based on the fact that no one was meeting, actually that is our top priority once we get through many other things that we've been trying to plow through. We have received a lot of feedback from a lot of the different areas that we sent things to, and Colleen is kind of coordinating and leading a lot of this, but if I'm not mistaken, a lot of what now needs to be reviewed has to be directed to the borough attorney, and some of it is just basically fees. Do you want to increase these fees? Do you want to review those fees? But a lot of the language in different areas, like the Board of Health or Land Use Board, we have gotten a lot of feedback.
Can you reach out to, excuse me, Councilman, can you reach out to them and see if they have what's the word? Discrepancies, thank you, that they have found with the words commissioner in relation to the police department and the fire department?
I have another point.
Jane, I got a whole thing sent to me that they had all the ordinances and they had all kinds of things in there. I thought that was their review. It's like 88 pages long.
Yes, it's
and-
several hundred, it's hundreds of pages long.
Oh, well, maybe it's longer, maybe it's even longer than that, but it
Yes.
was very long.
Yes.
And it does, on each ordinance, it makes suggestions you could go higher on fees.
Correct.
It makes different suggestions. I don't remember anything mentioned, I went through the whole thing, I don't remember anything mentioned about the commissioner situation.
Okay. I have it on my desk, I can go down and take a look at that. and I will let you know. I'll send you an email.
Just one other point, only because my gestalt sees some issues. So I want to address something that's at the end of the statute that seems to be of confusion, particularly for people in law enforcement. And having represented over 20 chiefs of police in Bergen County, this is something that comes sometimes to a shock. In the last paragraph, it says, "Nothing herein contained shall prevent the appropriate authority," or keywords, "any executive or administrative officer charged with the general administrative responsibilities with the municipality for examining at any time the operations of the police force or the performance of any officer or member thereof." So, and now if you're a chief of police, you want to say, but if you're a mayor or you're the administrator, this is plain as it's written. You don't say, "I only answer to the chief, I only answer to appropriate authority," because you answer to the general, any, notwithstanding, shall prevent the appropriate authority, or, not and, or only, or the members of, or, there's a big or there, any executive, mayor, Mr. Hermanson, you, okay, any executive, or administrative officer charged with the general administrative responsibilities of the municipality. So if you have a question that relates to clerk business for the chief, or any, he's got to work with you. You see what I'm saying? If it's within those general administrative responsibilities that you have, or the administrator. So there's, and I've been on both sides of this, but the chiefs don't understand that, no, the mayor is the head of the government, the administrator is the head of the administrative portion, and the clerk is responsible for that portion. You got to work with them. That's the law. That's the Chief Police Responsibility Act. So, just to relieve anybody of any ambiguity on what that says.
So I think we also, unless it's defined in there, have to define what the duties of the appropriate authority are, what their purpose is.
It is defined in the Chief Police Responsibility Act. And further, it's not, there's a list of things that are policy. It's policy.
For the appropriate authority.
For the appropriate authority. And for example, the appropriate authority hears cases of discipline. You can't have a chief of police on that. Chief of police can't hear the discipline when it comes to the appropriate authority. The appropriate authority handles that in non-civil service towns. Okay? Now, it depends upon what kind of discipline, whether it's minor discipline, major discipline, and so forth.
Discipline of who?
Discipline of the department officers. Well, this defines the chief police head, and I haven't read this since last year. Delegated authority. Yeah, this will say, as pursuant to the Chief Police Responsibility Act, and it will, see, there's the reference to it here. Anytime.
What are you referring to?
Well, the chief is the department head, all right? So under your ordinance, it just makes reference to that this ordinance has to comply, and he has to comply with this ordinance. So that statute, correct. So it's a balancing act, right? Bottom line is, you all got to work together. And that's what the law says. You try to minimize local turf wars over what's what and who's who. If you don't work together, it's bad for the town.
All right, does anyone have any other questions?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
All I know is I am Commissioner Gordon. The way it is, I'm bad at DPW also.
And that's what all his friends call.
I do call him Commissioner Gordon.
Well, that's the reason why this was asked that we put on.
Where's Chief O'Hara?
Yeah. That was
As a side note, I have a friend that calls me commissioner since I've been on the council for the last 9 years, and he still calls me commissioner. I said, you can call me mayor now, or you can still continue to call me commissioner. It's our private joke.
that was the reason why we put this on.
So I think you need to reevaluate where we are with the ordinance.
Clean it up.
And clean it up and see what you guys want to do.
Exactly.
I thought Danielle's suggestion was good in terms of, that's why I was warning about the creation
of these titles, that's not an easy ordinance to write. It's expensive, I'll do the research. I've done it, I probably have a bunch of it before, but I gotta shepherdize it, make sure it's up to date. Those types of ordinance for commissioners and with badges and everything, I don't think the chief would even, right, that's a bad idea, right? To be given tin badges to civilian council people?
We've never done it. We've always had 2 police commissioners. I was actually hired by 2 police commissioners.
Right.
And a mayor.
Uh-huh.
I was hired with the appropriate authority. As far back as my dad
Right.
was here, has always been the borough administrator, police commissioner, deputy police commissioner. Matter of fact, Chris Noller was my police commissioner. Vince Tripodi was the police commissioner. They actually were involved in doing hiring.
Right.
It's all in my policies. I got to change my policies, just so you know.
Oh.
Because our general orders have the appropriate authority consisting of the police commissioner.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that, then, chief, yeah.
Administrator, all right,
Yeah.
involved in hiring, promotions, and there's a lot more than that.
Well, no, I know that. I didn't know how
So at
deep
some
this was
point-
going.
And this is the first time I'm ever hearing, it's always been a mayor appointment.
Right.
The mayor,
Correct.
Jill, I think last year, or actually,
Last year,
Jill this year.
But not as
no,
commissioners.
I have to tell you, last year, when I came on, it was early February, I had a discussion with Rich Sciola about this issue, about the appropriate authority, and my recollection was, and Councilman pointed out to me, that, my recollection was it was the borough administrator. But the reason, and he said, no, there's a commission, and he's right, and I do remember saying, well, did we appoint the commissioner and deputy commissioner? And the answer was no, and I said to Mr. Sciola, you're the appropriate authority.
But we have to do appoint the commissioner, because I talked to my dad, who was the former chief of youth development, before Max Levino.
Right.
He said it was put in place so one person doesn't have too much power, that 3 people, 3 minds are able to work together. And it's been successful for so long. I would prefer, and I think the borough administrator should be.
I think you need to come up and speak into the mic, chief.
So I think what has been happening is that,
Well, he's got the floor right now.
So based on my research and based on my experience, the borough administrator always made sense because he's always here.
Right.
So usually, Bob and I, we talk all the time, we go back and forth. And the 2 police commissioners were my go-to. Before this year, I used to go to my police commissioner. I would call them up about an incident, they relayed the information to the rest of the council. They were involved in my hiring, they were involved in my promotions.
Yeah, no,
Only the
that's
2
correct.
police commissioners were determined to be from the mayor. And it's been that way for 26 years that I've been here, as well as when my father was here.
Yes, but what
Right.
John is
So-
saying is, we don't have commissioners.
No,
There's
what
no
I'm saying-
ordinance that
Well, I
supports
don't-
the fact that we have
What
commissioners.
I'm saying is that it was always, I'm just saying how it was been.
How it
It's always
was.
been determined by the mayor. Now, if there's been a change or a mishap in the past,
Yep.
I would prefer for us to look into, putting an ordinance that makes them police commissioners. All right, because I actually prefer to have 3. And once again, it's determined by the mayor. The mayor's choosing who it
Chief,
is.
let me explain,
But
because
the chain of command
Chief-
has always been that way.
when, in order for them to make up the appropriate authority, they don't need to be commissioners. What Mr. McCann said to you is, do you want civilians walking around with a badge? So this governing body has to decide whether they want to create the position of commissioners or to have the police committee be part of the appropriate authority
Yeah, that's what I'm
with
saying.
the borough
the
administrator.
liaisons that are
I'm
assigned.
sorry,
exactly what
I
I'm saying.
misunderstood.
Yes, that's why I just wanted to clarify.
I'm good with that. I just believe that.
There will be 3 people
It's
on an
work- yeah.
appropriate authority going forward, but as of right now, today, there's 1.
Okay.
John was just saying
That's what this
that,
whole thing has been about.
John was just saying that when Rich Sciola was here administrator, we had no police commissioners, therefore he was the appropriate authority.
Yeah,
John's not saying that that's the way it should have been.
Right.
Right. No, I'm just saying
Yeah, and that's news to me because he never talked to me about it.
That's what
I was still going through the police, what I thought was the police commissioners at the
Right.
time.
Listen,
That's why this is new to me. So to be honest, Chris Noller, I guess, was never supposed to call me, or...
I don't know that, chief, because I don't know if they ever had it. I know this.
But
Back in
wait a minute.
2000, let me finish, please. After 2007,
before 2007, I believe that there was an ordinance in Emerson because Brian Todd was involved in the litigation as the police commissioner. Somewhere after that, there was a change in the Emerson ordinances that did away with that. That's what I think. I don't know that for certain.
There was a change. I'm not sure what exactly it was, John, but there was a change.
And Chief, I just want to address something that you said, Chief. Chief, I just want to address something that you said. You said Councilman Noller, you shouldn't have been talking to him. Every single member of the governing body can call you up and ask you questions, and you can answer to them.
No,
You do not have
I was
to...
advised that he was my liaison.
Right, but you said I shouldn't have been talking to him. Of course you should talk to him. He was a governing body member. As well as if council, even when you have your appropriate authority, if any member of the governing body calls you, you could give them whatever information that you deem that isn't private police business.
Specific information is only shared with their appropriate authority. Not everyone is privy to that information, and you could talk to your attorney about that.
So,
I know Title 40.
So Chief, on your point, the governing body, under this ordinance, under the Chief Police Responsibility Act, is responsible for the actual promotions, right? The police committee, or the appropriate authority, makes the recommendation, but it still has to be voted on by the governing body, as it's been applied in practice. That is a hole in the cases.
The ordinance was changed.
What?
The ordinance was changed. You could look into that.
Yeah.
I know what the ordinance is.
Okay.
Donna Rossi, Chief Rossi actually changed it.
Okay.
And
Well, if you have it, show it to me. I mean, but understand, that's a heavily litigated area.
The governing body, the full
There's no way
governing
that-
body still votes on new hires.
There's no way the chief changed it. It had to be the governing body who changed the ordinance. So it may be under his recommendation that it was changed, but
We need to
you have to look
find
at it.
out. We need
I
to
just
find out.
follow what's in place. I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
So whatever's in place, I follow without me knowing it was the chief before me that changed it. So when I became chief, I had to do a hiring process, I had to do a promotion process.
Right.
And I looked at it, and I had to follow it, and it was different.
Right.
It was specifically spelled out in the ordinance.
Right.
That
Correct.
the appropriate authority did the hiring with me, and then the people were chosen and put up for ratification, and you can read it, it says ratification.
I believe you're right.
To the rest of the council.
I believe that's you're right. But what I don't know is what it now says in terms of that. But
Well, that's what was said.
okay, so
That's why I'm surprised.
But look, can I just say a broad statement to the public? What we're talking about is a very confusing area of law that is contested throughout the state of New Jersey. In fact, I'll expand that. It's contested throughout America. There's a natural tension between heads of department and the head of the government, and the head of the administrative portion of the government, and the other elected. There's a natural tension in the American system. The Chief Police Responsibility Act does away with a good amount of that tension. If read, and good people of goodwill come to an understanding on how to work together. But when people dig in their heels and start to say, well, this means that and this doesn't mean that, you have to take the statute, and it's been litigated on its plain face and its plain language. It's confusing. It's confusing for the people who operate in it. It's confusing particularly when you have elected officials come and go. So this is what I want to explain to the citizens of Emerson is this discussion is actually a healthy one and a good one, because, this mayor and council, I think it was discovered other inconsistencies in the ordinance. So we hired a company to go and find these inconsistencies. And when you have them, as you say, Chief, you're a rule follower. We need to make sure that A, the rules that you're following are appropriate, B, that they are the actual rules. Right, in this case, and C, it provides certainty and expectations. And when you each have that, you're able to work together more effectively for everyone, for the benefit of the community. And I think this is good. So, but
If I could just comment.
Sure.
We had a meeting the other day, with what I thought was the police commissioner and the borough administrator, and it was a dynamite meeting. I was very appreciative. It was so productive, and I would love to continue that if that's possible.
yeah, we just got to clean it up. We just got to fix it.
I just want to go one question, because on ratification, you're right. about ratification. It does come back to the board, and that's the thing, is that the council at
Makes
that
the
point
final
can make
hire.
that decision of whether saying yes or no to that ratification. In fact, what's going on in the town of Paramus right now, there is 10 officers that they are holding up right now.
Over
what's
one
going on
appointment.
over one appointment.
Over
And so
one.
I'm not going to get into that on that situation, but that does show you that the governing body still has the final decision of who actually is.
Yeah, promotions, the actual promotion under the state statute is the governing body in total. You're right, the key word you said was ratify, but that's not a ministerial act. Okay, as Mr. Hermanson points out to the borough of Emerson, actually the borough of Paramus, where there's 9 people accepted to all the members of the council and 1 person is not.
All right, we don't have time to get into parameters.
No, I'm not, but I'm explaining. But this is a good discussion. And Councilman Hoffman, you agree with me that somewhere after 2007, this was changed?
Yes.
Okay. We just don't know where. We'll have to find it. We'll find it.
So we'll clean it up and we'll figure it out and
And we'll
then
work it.
put it back together, like we've done with many issues. Yes, Councilman Bailey?
I would love to be included.
Excuse me, Councilman Bailey is speaking. Go ahead, Mr. Bailey.
One other point of interest, when we are appointed as liaisons, I think the title that you gave to us as you chose this was first liaison, second liaison. I don't think anything in any of the minutes show me as a title commissioner. So,
He really doesn't want to be the fire commissioner.
Well, that's
Tell them there's no hose test.
That's what, I was so-called fire commissioner for
But you're
4
right.
years. That's what the fire department calls their liaison, and Jim is in the same situation there, but there is no technically fire commissioner, listed. Right, that's right.
Councilman
Is it
Hoffman.
a term of endearment?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes.
Councilman Hoffman, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm taxing your memory because you have the longest bandwidth beside the mayor. Was there an incident that occurred that made them take away the titles commissioner? Or was it may have been the Sardina lawsuit, right?
There was, yes.
Because there was a lot of
Yes.
ambiguity, so to speak, in the actions of that commission.
Absolutely. So the mayor was very much involved along with Councilman Todd at that time. And I was to think of that as a result of that whole controversy and situation, which we're well aware of because you were involved there. That's where the changes came as a result.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, let's not get into all
Yeah.
this stuff.
But we want to move forward and get the appropriate authority, working with the chief. So it's not something we want to wait too long to make the changes on, correct?
Well,
Right, well, we'll start working on it tomorrow.
sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We just need some basic questions as to what ordinances do we have. Let's
Right.
start there.
We have to do a review and then see what we have and then put into place what we as a governing body deem is appropriate for the borough of Emerson, correct?
Correct.
All right, so we'll be cleaning that up.
You should keep that on the agenda, on the agenda.
Jane, would you please keep that on the agenda as an ongoing target for us
Yes.
to finish, please? Okay, we're done with that now? Excellent. The next order of business is introduction of ordinances. First reading, the next order of business is the introduction of ordinances, which I just said. Ms. Diche will announce by number and title the following ordinances. Upon approval, these ordinances will be further considered at a public hearing to be held on July 21st, 2020 at 7:30 p.m., either in the council chambers of the Borough Hall, Municipal Place, or by teleconference and published in the record. All ordinances are on the borough website and on file in the office of the municipal clerk in the Borough of Emerson, Borough Hall, Municipal Place, Emerson, New Jersey. Should you need a hard copy, please contact the clerk, and one will be mailed to you free of charge. Ms. Diche, please read the title of the first ordinance.
1615-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 47, Land Use Procedures, at Section 26, entitled Fees, and Section 26.1, entitled Escrow Deposits, and Chapter 236, Site Plan Review, at Section 9, entitled Fees, and Section 9.1, entitled Escrow Deposits of the Code of the Borough of Emerson.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1615-20 on first reading?
So moved?
Second.
May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Diche?
Councilman Daly? Councilwoman Mcguire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Denalo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia.
Yes.
Passes mayor 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Deche. I was going to say, from now on, can we refer to him as Commissioner? But I was on
Not yet.
I am, on the DPW.
The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1616-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 248 of the Borough Code on first reading, entitled Borough of Emerson, Section 38, entitled Curbs and Sidewalks Required for New Construction. And this is the ordinance that we had clarification on. So may I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
That was a second by Councilwoman Argenzia. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Daly. Councilwoman Mcguire.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dinalo.
Yes.
Council President Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia.
Yes.
Passes mayor 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Deche. The next item on the agenda is adoption of ordinances, second reading and public hearing. 1613-20, an ordinance amending Chapter 61-10 entitled Parks, Playgrounds, and Recreation, Fee Schedule of the Borough of Emerson, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, establishing fees for participation in recreational areas. May I have a motion to open the meeting to comments from the public on ordinance 1613-20 only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are now open to the public on ordinance number 1613-20 only. Would anyone from the public like to be heard? Would anyone from the public wish to be heard on ordinance number 1613-20? Hearing no requests, may I have a motion to close the public portion on this ordinance and on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Argenzia, who's whispering tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. Hearing no comments from the public, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1613-20 on second reading?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Daly.
Did he say yes?
Was that a yes, Councilman Daly?
Yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Mcguire.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dinalo.
Yes.
Council President Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia.
Yes.
Passes mayor 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Deche.
Welcome,
And
tennis.
that was the ordinance on the tennis fees, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, good. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1614-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 128, Certificates of Occupancy, Section 1. May I have a motion to open the meeting to comments from the public on ordinance number 1614-20 only?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We are now open to the public on ordinance number 1614-20, Chapter 128, Certificates of Occupancy, Section 1. Would anyone from the public wish to be heard this evening? Anyone? Hearing no requests, may I have a motion to close the meeting to comments on ordinance number 1614-20 only?
So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1614-20 on second reading?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Daly.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mcguire.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dinalo.
Yes.
Council President Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
And Councilwoman Argenzia.
Yes.
Passes mayor 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Deche. The next item on the agenda is reports. I guess we will start with Councilman Daly. Do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, Mayor, briefly, I just wanted to just, it was an enjoyable night of peace that we had at the town hall and the high school graduation the other night. I want to thank the police department, fire department, EVAC, auxiliary police, and the town for turning out. It was another wonderful night in Emerson.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank you,
Bailey.
Commissioner Bailey.
Fire Commissioner Bailey.
Did you hear what he said, Jim?
I want a badge.
He wants a badge. No badges for you now. All right, so who would go next? Councilman Mcguire? You have a report?
Yeah. For Recreation, as noted earlier, Bob Quinones, the presiding officer of Recreation Commission, stepped down at the last meeting. Currently, the alternate presiding officer, Paul Coombs, has filled in until a special reorganization meeting takes place, and that meeting will be tomorrow night. And they will have the reorganization. I also would like to congratulate Elish for her appointment onto the Rec Commission. She's been an alternate, and she's done a lot of great work, so congratulations to her as well. They are going to be having the summer kickoff rescheduled to August 29th with a rain date of the 30th. That's what their tentative schedule is, as long as things, proceed well. And rec baseball and softball are going to be starting, and the guidelines and safety precautions will be in place for them. And it's going to be great to see kids back on the baseball fields, for sure. With police, Commissioner Gordon and myself met with Chief Mazzio. The chief maintains an open door policy and makes himself available to assist Emerson residents in any way possible. Residents can contact the chief via his main number, 201-262-2800, or at his email, mmazzio@emersonpd.org. The police department also has a website, emersonpd.org, and Twitter account, Emerson Police, where residents can get informed and get information and updates, including the many community policing activities and efforts that they make in Emerson, for which they've been awarded. And so I just wanted to make that information available for any residents who have any, questions or anything they want to get in touch with the police for. Also, I loved participating in the car parade. I think that, again, it was like a great community event showing that all the different forces in town were able to get together and do a great event for our seniors and really show them off as they deserve to be. So congratulations to them and to all the students for working hard these past few months in quarantine, and I hope they have a great summer, and that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Denalo, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yeah, from some chamber news.
I think you're going to have to move
Push
that
that
mic
mic-
over.
move the mic right
Speak
there.
into
Yep,
it so
there you
everyone
go.
can hear you.
Got it? Okay. Chamber news. I was really very excited about this. I'm very happy to report that our own Dan Mcguire, all right, from Academy Electric.
Dan
was-
O'Brien.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Dan O'Brien.
Didn't I say that?
You said Mcguire.
Oh, that's what I have.
Mcguire, O'Brien.
I wrote it down, but, okay, from Academy Electric was chosen to supply all the electric generator power for the outside graduation for West Point. This was the first time the graduation was ever held outdoors. Because of the COVID restrictions, the parents of the cadets were not in attendance. So Dan had to supply all of the generators for the lights, the audio, and the recording for the televised event, which was like a big deal. All right. The general who was in charge of the graduation of the event was very pleased. All right. And he told Dan that this is the first time the ceremony did not have a problem with any of the generators. Because even when they had it indoors, they always had some kind of a problem. And this time it was all outdoors. It was on video so the parents could see it. They had to use satellite equipment, and he supplied it all, and it all went off without a glitch. And they're even considering maybe having this ceremony outdoors next year because they loved it so much. I asked him, I said, were you nervous about this? Because this was like a big deal, televised and all. And he said he didn't sleep for 2 nights worrying about it. So he told me he didn't sleep, and because after all, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, was there. So, to add to the tension, the President was there. So congratulations to Academy Electric for that. The Chamber is also holding a blood drive on Friday, July 10th, in Assumption School Cafeteria. It's scheduled from 12 to 6, but what they wanted you to know that it's only online registration. I know we have a flyer, and Jane's going to put it on our website, on the town website, but you have to sign up. You can't just show up. You have to sign up because they're being very strict about about social distancing, especially with medical equipment. Cradles to Crayons is going to open up for their summer program, which is wonderful. And my last thing is, I think it's great to see that our town is opening up. All right, I had lunch at Emerson Hotel, and I have to tell you, they're very strict about what they're doing, the social distancing. The waitress definitely wore her mask the right way. If you had to speak to her, you had to wear your mask. So, it was nice to see everything opened up. And I even got to go to Marshall's, which I was...
You waited in that line?
I was very... No, I did. Yesterday, I drove by.
I saw it all the
Oh,
way
yeah.
around the building, got to Stop and Shop.
The line went
right
from
in
Marshall's
today.
to Stop and... No, today, no line. No line today. And again, and they're being careful. They wash all of the carts.
Oh, nice.
All right, they hand it to you. After they wash it, you can only allow it in one door. You have to leave another door. They were very good about everything. And, they had a clicker, only left so many people in the store at the same time. And, so it was great. It was great. So, I'm glad to see us opening up again. It's a good sign. From the Board of Education, the school district looks forward to our on-site July 8th graduation. Okay, it's on the football field this year. They are grateful that the governor is lifting the cap on the attendance to 500 people. And that should enable our graduates and their families to attend. But the 500-person limit means that only graduates and their families can attend. So because of this, they are going to live stream it. So if anybody from town or any other, too big a family, they're going to live stream it. And they said there's more information, more specific information to follow. But that's what they have now. So he was happy, the Board of Ed was happy that we had 500 people now. So a little more inclusive than the drive-by or whatever it was going to be. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council President Hoffman, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. For the Shade Tree Commission, they are already working on the planning for the planting of the trees in the fall after having planted them for the springtime. They've been tweaking some of the process, which should be a lot smoother. It wasn't that bad for the spring, but there were some issues they had to deal with. They pretty much tweaked those issues, so it should work much more smoothly in the fall. By the end of this year, we should have somewhere in the area of 30 or so new trees planted in town. They are discussing when to have their makeup Arbor Day ceremony, which will probably be in September, October. You don't want to go too late into November. You want to get the trees rooted a bit before dormancy, so they're deciding on when to do that, probably at their next meeting. Steve Frost, our tree inspector, has been doing a really exhaustive survey of street trees throughout the town, which has really given the commission a good idea of the health of the trees all throughout the town. And then finally, I did want to speak to the public on behalf of the commission. A lot of people who had their trees approved for either removal or trimming are a little bit concerned about when that's going to be done. Steve has been explaining to them that we did have a moratorium. Rob has granted a 25% use of the tree removal budget at this point for the present. So a certain number of those trees are going to be removed. Yes, the list is far longer than that 25%. So just to let people know, they will eventually have the work done. They just need to be a little patient. That's it.
Thank you, Council President. Councilman, who goes next? With everybody sitting in different spots. Go ahead. Councilman Gordon?
Yes, I will go. I'd like to congratulate the class of 2020. Thanks for coming to the celebration. It was very nice. I'd like to thank everyone that participated. It's much appreciated. I have a son that's graduating this year. I'd like to thank Rob for all his due diligence on the floor at the firehouse. And I'd like to thank this governing body for being as transparent and as open as possible. So, and then I also have a report from the DPW where they do call me the commissioner. And they've recycled 18,640 pounds of metal. And they earned $695.63. The DPW is also sanitizing the Borough Hall, the library, the senior center, recreation center, bus stops, trash receptacles, and the DPW regularly. That's a tough one. They will begin sanitizing playgrounds in the near future. Grass cutting is ongoing, and the chipper is being sent out to chip residents' branches twice a week. The DPW planted flowers and mulched the Veterans Monument for Memorial Day. The ambulance building is being prepared for the installation of garage doors. The DPW staff attended classes on fire safety on the 9th of June, and a hearing conservation on the 16th. The annual Clean Communities Statistical Report was submitted to the NJCCC. Thank you very much.
I'm going to tag on to that DPW report with some more recent news. So, some group of young adults that play basketball were slipping on the basketball courts, and we asked the DPW to wash the courts and get that film off of it, so that has been done, so it's safer now up at Ackerman Courts. That kind of happened today. It was a request that I had last week, and I'd spoken to Perry, and I did want to say that I've been delivering the Meals on Wheels, so I go down to the DPW every Tuesday to pick up all the meals. DPW worker goes down, I think, to Lodi or Garfield, grabs them, and then I deliver them. So when I got there this morning, usually I see Perry. Perry is on vacation. They asked me not to call Perry while he's on vacation, because I do call Perry a lot. So when I got down there, I said, look, I only called him once, and it was to say Happy Father's Day on Sunday. I texted him, and I was told by our foreman that Perry, as of 6 a.m., had already listened to his messages at the phone and answered all of his emails. So, Perry, if you watch this, you're in trouble. Relax. Have a good vacation, and we'll see you when you get back. Councilwoman Argenzia, do you have a report?
I do, thank you. For the ambulance, I'm glad to hear that the doors are going to be installed soon. The electrical work, hopefully, next.
Working on it.
They did, for the month of May, they had 32 total calls taken, 30 were in Emerson, 2 were in another town. They drove a total of 89 miles. They covered 19 12-hour shifts and had 461 man-hours of service to the town. They wanted everybody to know that the fund drive is just getting started for donations. They've been mailing out the letter. They had an issue with their defibs. I guess they got a letter from Stryker, I don't know if you were aware, saying that they're old and they need to be changed because they possibly won't work correctly. So I don't know.
That is the first I'm hearing of that. No one reached out to me.
Okay. So then they might have to get new ones based on that. And then just, we were going to have somebody look at the old ambulance because they said it wasn't running appropriately. The brakes felt soft. The front end was wobbly. So we're going to see if somebody can take a look at it. And they're doing virtual meetings for the rest of the year.
Who was that?
The ambulance, they're going to do virtual meetings for the rest of the year. The Board of Health, they, as everybody knows, Angela, she retired. So as of July 1st, Gina Bear, she's the new health official from Northwest Bergen. She's, going to replace Angela's role for the official for Emerson. They had a discussion regarding, they wanted to just say, thank you to everybody in town, the police, administrative fire, just being very diligent with the COVID and, keeping the residents safe. And they have a special meeting that they called for this Thursday because they wanted to, extend the deadline for the handling fees. So every year the fees are actually coming up for June, I think it is, for the establishments to reapply for their food handling licenses and things like that. So they wanted to put in a special amendment to the ordinance just stating that they were going to give a 90-day grace period for certain businesses in terms of, getting those fees handled. So they had to call a special meeting for that because they meet in July and August. So this Thursday is the special meeting to approve that, approve that ordinance. They did, I think, post it also. So, and I wanted to tag on something that you said, Ken, about the shade tree with the planting of the trees. Mm-hmm. They did mention at one point, I don't know if they discussed about planting a tree for Kay, who was the health nurse. Mm-hmm. And I know they were speaking to somebody about it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Maybe they spoke to Margaret, either Margaret or Steve, I would guess.
I think we planted a tree last year for Kay.
No, it was never done. There was a plaque, but they never did the tree, they said. That's what they said, that they wanted to talk, possibly
I don't think
plant the tree by the plaque.
the trees, so last year, Mayor, it was, I think just the one tree was planted for Arbor Day by the Environmental Commission, and then the shade trees started with their tree planting this spring. There was nothing for Kay that I'm aware of.
Right.
But if they want to do something for Kay in a specific spot, I would encourage them, if they haven't already, reach out to Margaret Boyce, their chair, as soon as possible, because they are starting to plant. It takes a while to plant, to get the contractor in place and, get him to order the trees that they want.
Okay. And that's it.
I think the family asked for a flowering tree.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, something flowering.
I have a question for Ken.
I could swear I have to go look.
It's at the environmental committee.
Councilman, yes.
Her office was down by the seniors, and I think, right in there, the rec area?
Kay Hodges was our public
Committee.
health nurse that,
I think they put it down there by the
passed away
rec.
shortly before her 100th birthday.
I just talked to her.
I think it's down by the rec.
It's at the Memory Garden.
Yeah, down by the rec,
Library.
like where the library and the rec
There's a-
commission is, because her office was down there in the senior building.
Do you need to? All right, did everyone do their reports? All right, for anyone listening, I spilled a whole glass of water when I walked over, and that was what all.
Yeah, you threw me off because I heard you.
I know, I just spilled everything.
Judge Letty is going to thank you for cleaning up the space.
Everything has been sanitized now, so I don't have to worry about Judge Letty getting any germs on Thursday. Okay, so now my paper's all gone. So are we up to my report?
Yes.
Okay. So there have been no swift reach reverse calls in the last couple of weeks from me, which I'd been doing during the COVID-19 crisis, because no news is good news. We are status quo. We are not hearing of any new cases of COVID-19 in the borough, which is great news. We're really only hearing about recoveries. I think as of Sunday, they're even beginning to let relatives visit with their families at the 3 nursing homes in town, so that's really great news. So if I have something to say, and it's very important, you'll get a message. If not, you'll be hearing the recorded voice for a while, unless there's something really important that needs to be said. And I do want to thank everybody that had reached out to all the different families that offered to give assistance to any families that were in need during the crisis because of the loss of work and whatnot. So the only information that really is really new is things are opening up. The governor has now put a executive order into place permitting indoor 25% of the capacity of the building, or 100 people, whichever is less. And outside for right now, it's 250 people, and there is no outdoor limit for political or religious gatherings. I still do want to encourage so I just want to clarify something. If you have immunocompromised, or if you were in a certain health group or in a certain age group, I encourage you to continue to wear a mask wherever you go, and to wash your hands, and to social distance. That being said, when you are outdoors, if you are someone in good health, there is no requirement to wear a mask outdoors. I've been hearing a lot of wasn't wearing a mask. You do not need to wear a mask if you are outdoors. If you are comfortable wearing a mask and you are comfortable social distancing outdoors, please feel free to do so at any borough event, but it is not required that you wear a mask outdoors, period. Okay? I just wanted to clarify that, because a lot of people still think that when you're outdoors, you need to wear a mask. It's actually, I think,
It was never a requirement.
it was never a requirement. And I actually think the CDC says that outdoors, it can be more harm than good to wear the mask outdoors.
There's no question.
There's no question. You need the fresh air. So, but Please, if you are of a certain age group, or if you do have any kind of medical issue and your doctor recommends, please follow your doctor's advice and continue to wear the mask. Obviously, if you go into Marshalls, like a lot of the female governing body members did in the last 2 days, or you go into any of our stores, they do require the mask, but outdoors, if it is a borough function, or masks are just not required outdoors. Library is having front door pickup and drop off. You need to call ahead and reserve your books, and they will place them at the library, and then you can go pick them up at a prescribed time. So that is very exciting news that we can start using the library again. They also are continuing all of their programs on Facebook and online, so please check with them on their website as well as on their Facebook page. Sporting events are beginning again. I believe baseball practice started yesterday, and hopefully we'll be seeing some games. So if there's no sports going on and you want to see a game, we'll start announcing at the next, well, I guess they'll happen before the next council meeting, but check out the fields down at Benkovic and at the, what's the other field called? Major Field? What do they call the other field? Benkovic and Major?
I don't know if they call it Major. I thought it was Hillman.
Hillman? I always forget what they call those. Go down, catch a game. See some people you haven't seen in a while. And if you feel like it, wear a mask. And if you don't, just try to social distance. Tennis, as Councilwoman Mcguire said, is starting up. A lot of people are asking me why they're still locked. They are under the direction right now of one of our rec commission members, Mike Graham. If you have any questions about playing tennis, if you can't get on the courts, if you want to play tennis, please reach out to Mike Graham of the Recreation Commission. And I don't have his email right here, but you can call the clerk and we'll make sure that she has it in case you have a question or the administrator has it.
He has no problem giving out his cell phone on this either, he said. Absolutely, he said. But anyone who would like to volunteer to help them on this, to reach out by either email or phone. He said he can be reached at 201-401-1345. He said right now that there has been a number of volunteers, 201-401-1345. There's been a number of volunteers that have actually helped to open the courts and get them ready to go. He is very thankful for those individuals, but he said that there are few and that they could use a lot more. And so anybody who would like to participate and help, they would be willing to they would accept all the help that they can get. He also stated that to let everyone know that the other 3 courts right now will remain closed until graduation, and that once graduation has finished on July 8th, that those 3 courts would be open at that point. But they do not want to do anything because of the way it's set up with the cups and the pictures that they have for the seniors on those courts right now. So the Board of Education has asked if they will remain closed until then, and tennis has agreed to that. So there was some questions about opening the courts earlier than where they are. Mike has said that anyone who would like to open the courts earlier and come in and volunteer to do so, to be there for them, he is more than willing to open the courts if they want to be there, to open them for the others also and to help. And he's looking for all help that he can get.
Okay.
That's the report on tennis.
Thank you.
So would any of the individuals that volunteer to help, would they then have to apply to the same rules in terms of giving in their license and stuff for background checks?
They discussed that at the last recreation meeting, so that, I think that there are some teenagers, and if you're, to my understanding, it was that if you're under 18, you, with the training, you don't need to do the same background check. At least that's what they were saying. And that's my understanding of what they discussed. You were on the call. Yeah, so I think that they're trying to take advantage of some of the teenagers, so they don't have that problem of having volunteers who haven't had the background check yet, because that's a process in itself of going through that. So for him to get up and running, he's hoping to get some volunteers that are older teenagers.
So he's not looking to take advantage of volunteers, let's just clarify. What he's looking for is to give some opportunities to teenagers to volunteer and to serve the borough like some of our adult volunteers.
Absolutely.
So if you are a teenager and you have some free time and you want to open up the courts, please reach out to Mike Graham, and you can participate as a volunteer on behalf of the Rec Commission and the borough in order to allow people to play tennis more frequently.
Correct.
Is that good?
Yes,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Just wanted to clarify that. And he wants to use the volunteers in terms of because they are minors, they don't need background checks. Is that correct? Legal?
I don't know.
He doesn't know?
That seemed to be the consensus at the last recreation
It's not a
meeting.
crime if you're not 18. I don't know what the theory is, but I don't know.
I'll have to research it.
Okay, so would you get back to us and make sure that that is okay to do?
Sure.
Okay. Yes. All right, good. All right, back to my report. I'll focus back in here. Here's the big news. Our next council meeting will be a live meeting in this building. We will invite the public in based on whatever the recommendations are from the governor on indoor gatherings. So the governing body will be here, and we will invite the public back to our meetings for our July 21st meeting. So we look forward to seeing people here again. We do have to put some parameters in order as far as temperature checks and how we're going to set a policy for that. We could require a temperature check to make sure that nobody is sick, because we're still concerned about COVID, and we will be asking you to wear masks because you're indoors, and you will still be social distancing. But we will be welcoming the public back, and I'm very excited about that, because as much as I love seeing everybody right here, I love to see the room more filled than it is, not to capacity, but love to see everybody participating in our borough government. Okay, that was the exciting news for tonight.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Along those lines? Commissions and boards, can they start doing that?
They can have their meetings in person, yes. We are, so I met with OEM and with, Mr. Hermanson, our administrator, and the three of us together decided that we were going to reopen the building as of July 6th. So, if you need to come to Borough Hall, you still need an appointment to come in. We need to know that you're coming in. We need to know that you're not sick. If you can still do your business at the window at the construction department, and I believe we're putting a window in at the clerk's office eventually.
We're looking into
We're
that
looking
as
into
of right
that.
now.
So we are trying to, we're trying to be welcoming, but we're also trying to keep everybody in the building safe. So if you don't have to come to the building and you can answer it with an email or a phone call, we ask that you do that. If you could do it at one of the walk-up windows, we would like you to do that also. But the building will be open if you need something that can't be done either through the window, by mail, or by telephone. So that's July 6th. That's exciting information also to me. Even more exciting information for our seniors. July 9th, we have decided to allow them to start meeting at the senior center again. Social distanced, masks, lots of hand washing, no hugging. We're going to have all the tables separated, but they have been dying to meet. I think a few of them have been meeting outdoors down in the parking lot, and because they can't stay away from each other, and I think it's great. So on July 9th, I'll see you guys. I'll be there. And then, what else? Graduation, July 8th. Pat had said that. Let's see. Voting. Jane, could you please explain voting to everybody? Because there are many, many questions on Facebook and many, many questions that everybody has. And I might even ask you to come over and speak into one of these louder mics, if you don't mind, just so that everybody gets the information.
Is this not loud enough, or?
Do you want to come closer so that you're saying no? Okay,
so
belt it out like you're singing.
Okay, so the primary election is taking place on July 7th. If you are a registered voter, a Republican or Democrat, you should have already received a ballot in the mail. If you intend to vote, you should fill out that ballot and refer to the directions that are included in that packet of exactly how to complete the package and vote properly. There is no postage necessary. As long as that envelope is postmarked by July 7th and received by the county by July 14th, it will count. There are also several secure ballot boxes, I'll call it, throughout the county, nothing very local. Apparently, they all have surveillance on them, in different towns throughout the county. Like I said, nothing nearby. If you are unaffiliated, so you're not a registered Republican or Democrat, you should have received an application for a vote-by-mail ballot. You would need to fill that out and return that, and then they will mail you a ballot for the party that you are declaring. Then you are considered, let's say, a registered Democrat or Republican. You then must fill out that.
So let's go over that one more time. If you are a Republican or a Democrat, you should have received your ballot.
Yes.
If you are not a registered Republican or Democrat and you wish to vote, you need to request a vote-by-mail ballot and declare your application and declare which party you would like to be voting in for the primary.
Right, and then you will receive the ballot.
And then you will receive the ballot
of that party that you're requesting, and then you must, again, return that. It does not need postage. You can hand deliver it to the county. You can bring it to one of those boxes throughout the county, or you can mail it in. Again, must be postmarked by July 7th. I find the mail not to be very reliable, so, please get that in sooner rather than later.
and they bring it here.
No.
Do not bring your ballots to Borough Hall.
Do not. The other thing is, there will be one polling place open in town for all 6 districts. So that will be at the senior center. That will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., just like any other election day. It will be manned by several poll workers. However, this is the key. If you don't want to use a mail-in ballot, and you go there and you want to vote in person, unless you have very specific handicap or disability, you must vote by provisional ballot. A provisional ballot is a paper ballot.
So whether you vote by mail or you vote provisionally at the polling place on Election Day, you're voting on paper either way, unless you are disabled and you have proof of the disability. You gave me a form that's going to have to be certifying that you're disabled.
There is a form which I requested from the county, and it has very specific, only very specific instances of how you could actually vote in a voting booth. You have to be blind, you have to be, I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay. What? Yeah,
I don't think
this
that
is just
has
a form.
the,
That's just a form.
In the middle.
This is the form.
Unable to vote by yourself at the voting booth, and you must sign something. It says that if you...
Stating that you are certifying that you are disabled.
Right. And then, once that is completed, then the poll worker has to call the county to see if you have returned a mail-in ballot, because they don't want you to vote twice. And then, assuming that you have not returned a mail-in ballot, then those people only that have signed that form would be able to vote in the voting booth. Does that answer most of the questions you've seen
That's
online?
a lot of questions. And then there is one polling booth, one polling place open for all 6 of our districts.
That is correct.
And that is the Senior Center on Palisade Avenue.
Right, and we will, we'll be setting everything up so there's social distancing, minimizing the number of people that can be in there, requiring that you use hand sanitizer, stay as far away from the poll workers as possible. They're generally elderly. We're extra concerned that, they stay safe. There will be a conference call tomorrow with all the clerks and the county election division, and I'm sure that that's going to be a long phone call with a lot of information.
Look, this is a very trying election cycle, this primary. It takes a lot of courage to put your name onto a ballot, so I do want to wish anyone whose name is on a ballot for this primary on July 7th, good luck. And don't forget to vote.
Yes.
Be part of the process.
One other thing that someone had asked me, if you have received a Republican ballot, it's two-sided. So if you must vote the reverse side for the local candidates. However, if you are, received a ballot for Democratic candidates, there is nothing on the back, it's blank. So
Do
please
you know
look
why
at,
that was there any explanation to that?
the number of lines that were, taken.
There wasn't as many Democratic individuals voting for, so it just took up one piece where Republican went all the way to the other side and on the back, the way that it lined.
Any delegates to the convention?
Well, both would have had delegates,
But
would have had the same.
same
Yeah.
number?
Yeah, I think it's the same number.
I haven't seen all the ballots.
Like, well, like I said, I unfortunately have a Democrat that lives in my home, so we looked at that ballot too. But it was like the Republican one went across like the one row, and then it went onto the back wall for the same category for one specific.
Yeah, it's very, very
Line.
confusing. If you have any questions,
They can certainly, give our office a call, 201-262-6086. Our office is option 9. I'd also suggest, you can call, the Bergen County, Superintendent of Elections office at 201-336-6109. And again, I want to emphasize that even if you don't like filling in a paper ballot and you say, I'm going to the polling place and I am going to vote in the booth, not, unless
it's
you,
not happening. You're still going to vote on paper. You are not voting on a machine.
unless you have a
Certified that
disability.
You have a disability.
And it has to be, there are things on that form
These
that
are not
say-
our rules, these are the governor's
These are,
rules.
right, that, that it would be considered voter fraud for you to say that you are disabled if you are not, so. I hope, anybody can call us, call the county if you have any questions.
Okay.
I'd like to just add something to that, too. I can just tell you that when, one of the things that I was with a senior over this weekend, and the problem that they had with the ballot was they went to put it in the wrong envelope. There's 2 envelopes. You need to put it in one envelope first before you put it in the second envelope. If you do not put it in the first envelope, it's not going to be valid, all right? The vote
It gets
is,
thrown out.
it's not valid, so.
Read your directions on
I was gonna say, and remember to sign your name on the back
On the back.
also, because that was confusing as well.
Yeah, so that part, I think, look, I think if they could make it any more confusing, they did, okay? And I think I do think that some of the way that it's being done is very difficult
And if you
for some of our
receive a
voters.
ballot for someone who is deceased, what should they do? Because I've seen a lot of that happening. That deceased people are living in homes where there are deceased voters, and
Send them to Hudson County.
if you receive a ballot and the person has either moved or is deceased, do they discard it? Do they return it to the?
No, I think it's, I don't have anything in front of me, but if you say return to sender,
Just so just
deceased,
write return to sender?
yes,
Put it in your
and
mailbox,
postage,
stick it in the mailbox.
return postage is guaranteed because they want to make sure if
That they
he
take them
doesn't
off
live
the books
there or
the next
somebody
time.
has passed away, that they are made aware.
I've seen a lot of pictures on Facebook of deceased members of families receiving ballots. And, look, this is a process that we have to go through because of COVID-19 supposedly. I think if I could go to Marshall's, we should have been able to go to vote. It doesn't make sense, but this is the way we're doing it. So don't forget to vote. If you have questions, call the clerk, call the Board of Elections. Good luck to all the candidates.
But don't
on the
forget to
ballot.
vote.
But don't forget to vote. All right, and then the last thing, 4th of July is coming up. Fireworks, some fireworks are legal. When you are setting off fireworks to celebrate at your parties at your homes, please be sure you're setting off the legal ones. And please be very careful because we like you and we want everybody to keep their, 10 fingers. And lastly, I had a ball at the senior drive-by celebration. I want to thank every member of the community that came out for them. Those seniors were floored. They were so happy when they got here and they saw everybody that came out. I was floored when I came up the main street. Rob and I were in a little gator from the DPW drove, and and I have to thank the fire department for this because we turned the corner and we came up and I was staring at one great big huge American flag and I started to cry. And I think every senior that was in a car behind us had the same emotion. It was so moving. And thank you, AJ. Thank you to the whole fire department. From the bottom of my heart, DPW, police, everybody that helped with that. It was such a fantastic night. And hopefully we have more nights like that. I mean, we really have been having a lot of nice gatherings, and I think that's a trend that I would love to continue, because I think everybody loves coming out, spending time with each other, and really being together as a very close community, and that's always been very important to me. And I think me and this governing body will continue that with whatever we could have a celebration for, we're going to celebrate. Okay, I am done with my report. Mr. Hermanson, do you have a report this evening?
I'm going to be much shorter than yours, I hope. Okay. So I'm just going to tag on to the last thing that you just said, though, and start with that. I believe you have a new annual celebration.
Yeah, I heard I have to have.
This is what we're hearing. This is what was said to administration and given to us. The people did think that this was a great thing and did come out, and we're very, very excited about it. I think even the Board of Education, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent were there, came down, saw it, and we're applauding what went on, and we're very happy for
Maybe they want to do it next year.
Maybe, yeah. So that's first. I want to thank everyone for what they did. It really, for everybody the volunteers, the parents, the moms who really got involved and helped pick this up, and the mayor, and then the council and the people from EVAC and fire department, the police, your auxiliary, the DPW. There was no one who was not part of this, and legitimately afterwards, every person I spoke to, no matter which department or where they were, whether it was parents or whoever, were absolutely floored at how great it went. So, kudos to everybody for that. Today I had a discussion with a gentleman from NJDOT over the redevelopment of the sidewalks and what we're doing down on the continuing on the grants that we have.
Did they assign an engineer finally?
That is the discussion that we have. They were looking to start have a meeting with myself along with the engineer. I then sent the email, said to him, we told you we wanted your engineer because we were able to go further with the assets that was given to us if we do so. But you have never let us know who the engineer is. So once you let me know who the engineer is, I'd love to sit down with you and them to get this going. So hopefully by the next meeting, I will be able to update you that we have had a sit down with everybody to kind of go over this and to get this going and moving forward with this so we can start this. Which also leads me to the floor bid. We have to do the same thing with the floor bid now for the firehouse. Once now that we have to have a regular meeting once, get together and an introductory of what's happening and what we do to kind of get it going. But we feel very good that that'll be done hopefully before the July 4th break, so that we're still on with our plan of where we want to be with this. The bids came in. The bid was better than what we had thought, which is great. That was the good news. We had to keep our fingers crossed on that to make sure that we were under where we were with the budget. We are under budget. The only thing that will be left on the cost of this that was not part of the bid, because it's not part of the actual job, is once the job is completed, we have to seal the floor. So we actually have to go over and seal it. So that'll be additional. But we actually think that from where we are,
bid to begin with, so
right. But we're under. That's what I'm saying. So what we actually believe is that we will have enough money through there to cover that, which will be very, very nice. So we'll see how it goes. We'll have to, hopefully we don't run into any other problems. But if that's the case, that's very good all around for everybody. Telephone systems are continued to be installed. We're almost done here, thank God, with that. In fact, we have individuals coming in tomorrow to take care of another department very, very early in the morning, so to make sure that we're not, bothering people during the workday on that, which is great, and I want to thank them for doing so. We talked about reopening the building. We are doing that again by appointment only at first for to come into departments. We're working on one department right now still, making sure that one is that we deem it, safe for our employees and for the people who are coming in, to that department. So we want to make sure that that's cut before we open up anything, and that's the reason why we're still, doing that. We're working on that. We have submitted questions for reimbursement through our CFO, the CARES Act. I want to thank our department heads. They came up with some very, very good ideas and some thoughts. We have thought outside the box. We are continuing to think outside the box. I think the reason why we have not heard the answers back to the questions, and I think the reason why is they're sharing Emerson's ideas with everybody else is what's going on. Because we legitimately, I really do thank the department heads for coming to me, and coming up with, some really good ideas to help, keep the building safe, and if this ever happens where we have to go forward with this. So that's that. I want to congratulate the graduates for July.
I just want to mention Mark Savino again, who, I think we got an email today that he applied for reimbursement, and pretty much 90% or 99% of whatever, we applied for reimbursement from FEMA we're getting.
Right.
Which is great. So a lot of the stuff that, we had to put into all the sanitation stuff and the foggers and everything to keep everybody safe, that we're getting reimbursed for that, which we're grateful for.
As for the moratorium on spending, we are still continuing to look into that, to see going forward. As one of the problems that we have and that we will continue to have until we know something different is that, August 1st is coming. We are now going to have that is our next tax cycle on tax payments. Everything was pushed off a month. By being pushed off a month means that we only have 2 months from the last payment to where the next one is. We continue to believe, from myself along with the CFO, that this is going to be the hardest cycle of where we are and how we're going to meet. So we are trying to keep our belts tightened right now. And that's why I recommend that all departments, including EVAC and fire and anyone before they spend anything or look to spend anything, that they reach out to us and let us know what it is that they're spending, because we are concerned that there will be a revenue shortfall.
Well, we're still under a spending moratorium. They have to
That's my
ask
point.
you.
Exactly.
Right.
So right now, I heard like EVAC was talking about, the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know about that. That should come to us. And not that I would say no about the ambulance, obviously, because we need the ambulance, but we need to know those things, because we're trying to keep track, myself and the CFO, of where we are, because we really do not want to we know we already have court shortfall. We know we're going to have building shortfall. We know that there's places in this town, the borough, that we're going to have shortage from where we were and what we had expected revenues earlier this year due to this COVID virus. So we're trying to do what we can to make sure that the borough is not affected as greatly due to that. So I want to just remind everyone, please, make sure you reach out to us on that. Other than that, that's it for my report. Congratulations again to the graduates, to the 8th graders and everyone else who have gone through, and hopefully they'll be a little better a little tougher, obviously, but congratulations.
No.
It's up to you, May.
Yes, I'm just catching up on one quick thing, because I'm looking at the consent agenda and I don't see something on it. Can you take a look at the consent agenda? Let me know if you think anything was missing off of it. All right, and while he's doing that, Mr. McCann, do you have a report for us this evening?
No, I'm just exchanging text messages with the chief, asking me why past practice doesn't apply. Past practice is a labor doctrine that doesn't take the place of a required affirmative. Past practice is a labor doctrine. It doesn't take the place of an affirmative vote required by a governing body.
The chief is texting you right now?
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to him in case he can hear me. I couldn't see if you can see the texts. Yes. I just wanted him to know that on the record.
Okay.
So
The next order.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that concludes the meeting.
No, I wish, you wish. The next order of business is public comment. Members of the public are welcome to speak on any topic by announcing your name and address for the record and asking permission to speak. In the interest of time, speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and including questions and answers. In consideration of all who may wish to speak, please keep your comments brief and concise. And I'm going to ask if anyone does speak, to speak very clearly, because we are having some sound issues today with GoToMeeting, so we want to hear you clearly if you are speaking. What else did I say? May I have a motion to open the meeting up to the public, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open to the public. Would anyone from the public wish to speak? Would any member of the public wish to speak? You'll have to unmute yourself if you're saying something. One last time, would anybody from the public like to speak this evening? Hearing nobody, may I have a motion to close the meeting to public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion, the next item on the agenda is resolutions on consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda, resolution number 123-20 through 129-20?
So moved.
Yes, Councilman.
If I could, on the second to last item, there are a couple of things that need to be filled in.
The second to last item.
28-20.
Okay, on the firehouse repair?
I didn't get that in my packet. Maybe it was updated today.
Councilman Daly said he didn't get it in this packet. Was it updated today?
I'm sorry, what was he missing?
What were you missing, Councilman?
The
The amount of the bid.
It is on the resolutions, which I think... Mhm.
Is it
Yes, which, I didn't, I was...
It's on the, yeah, $322,911.30.
Did you hear that, Councilman?
Yes, and the name of the company?
Repair Service LLC of Lincoln Park, New Jersey, 07035.
Infrastructure repair service.
Infrastructure Repair Service. Sorry, I misread that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Daly?
Can you say that again?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mcguire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Denalo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argenzia?
Yes.
Passes mayor 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Diche. The next item on the agenda is closed executive session. We are now going to go into closed session. Members of the public may remain on the GoToMeeting until we return to open session, at which time formal action may be taken. When I said that we were going to be having live meetings, we're still going to continue the GoToMeetings, so that if someone is uncomfortable or if we can't get everybody, as many people as we'd like, into the room because of social distancing, I should have said that before, that we will continue the platform of the GoToMeeting as well as being opening up the room to the public. So may I have a motion to go into a closed executive session to discuss matters exempt from the public pursuant to NJSA 10:4-1 et sec, and adequately noticed by resolution number 130-20.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We're now in closed session.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Thank you. We're recording. Okay. May I have a motion to go back into open?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion?
This conference will now be recorded.
May I have a motion to add the Sedembrino contract proposal to our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the proposal from Sedembrino Architects for the services, architectural services for the new addition to Borough Hall
And
the
renovation.
remodel of and the renovation of this building in the amount of, Rob, help me with that.
$749,500.
May I have that motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Pat, was that a second? I seconded. You seconded it? Okay. That's a first by
Commissioner.
Commissioner Gordon and a second by Councilwoman Denalo. May I get a roll call, please?
Councilman Daly?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mcguire?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Denalo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argentio?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, Ms. Teacher. May I also have another motion, based on new developments, we need a redevelopment attorney.
Mr. Bailey voted?
He's on the telephone. So may I have a motion to put out an RFQ for a new redevelopment attorney?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Daly?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGuire?
Yes.
Councilwoman Denalo?
Yes.
Council President Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilwoman Argentio?
Yes.
Passes, Mayor, 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Teacher. With no more business to discuss, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 10:39 PM?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. Good night, Jim.
Good night,
Good night, John Boy.